Hello, everybody. Welcome back yet again. Round five of the National Open. Uh, Here with Omar once again, commentate on
Hello.
Kamryn's games. And things are about to get underway. We're just waiting for it to get started. As usual, the broadcast of the boards is delayed a little bit, so we're gonna do the best to recreate the game as we can see it from what we can see. Not an easy
You're
task, but
actually really good at that.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it'll be a little bit of a challenge, and then hopefully the live games page will update soon, and we'll have all the moves. And in the meantime, if it makes sense, we might recap some of the couple last round games for you, which have been quite exciting.
Yeah, the last one was a really exciting game.
Last one was very exciting. Took a tragic turn in the middle game, but um, Kamryn fought back incredibly well in a position that should have been completely hopeless and even had drawing chances at the very end. Had a draw, but missed the one opportunity. So it was a nail biter for sure, but an impressive comeback that she had in that game.
Yes.
Speaking of comebacks, she lost that game, but hopefully she'll be able to bounce back this round.
Yeah. That's I don't know that I've had the opposite in my over the board events where I've lost in quick fashion and then had to sit for 3, 4 hours,
Oh yeah.
and agonize. Whereas I don't know, there's I almost wonder if it's better to lose a longer game that you knew you had chances and then you don't have as much time. You have literally enough time to sort of spin around twice and then you're right back at the board
Yeah,
and you don't have a choice.
the challenge is to get the whatever memory, painful or otherwise, happened in the previous game and box it out of your mind completely and sit down and just play this game like it's a first round of the tournament. Um, that's hello.
Yeah, he's looking at us. He's like, "Are you
Heard
talking
me.
about me?" No, we're not. We're not talking to you, sir.
um,
It's like he
yeah.
knows.
So I don't. Yeah, exactly. I just don't know. It's very hard to do, and I don't know how she's going to react. That last game, she could have won. She was supposed to lose. Could have held, and ended up losing. And those emotions are intense. So,
No doubt. She's a good
but
sport though, man.
yes,
Like
absolutely.
she's never once been like, "I don't want to talk to you after." Just that would be me. Like Omar's going to join us, and he's not.
Well,
Right?
he's gone. Where's Omar?
Omar has left. He's left his stuff. He's left his phone. He's walking out. We can see him walk. Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah.
Um,
But you have
I figured this
to.
one would be pretty easy for you to set up because she's playing in London. So
She's playing in London.
yeah,
If I'm just keeping my eye on the camera because you can kind of tell what they're doing based off like where their hand goes, what they reach for, even if you can't
gotcha.
tell exactly what the pieces are. Um, it's nothing special so far. He's playing this bishop e7 move. If I have that correct, which I think I do, is fine, but it's a little bit on the passive side.
Where would you
So,
normally want to have that bishop in
well,
this
black
setup?
can put it on d6.
Okay.
They could
Oh,
wait
this is what we talked about in the other game. You were like, "Hey, it's
a little
when she
bit.
went out to D6."
It's really this bishop d3 move
Got
that
you.
is like in the last game it made sense for her to go to e7 because there was a pawn break coming. But here there's no pawn break coming because black is not playing a kings and dean setup. So now now the bishop is safe to go to d3. It's very natural square there.
Got you.
The setups that I like to play if I can get it go something like knight d2, knight e5, queen f3, and some sort of kingside attack with the queen and bishop on h7 and the knights coming in. That's sort of like my ideal scenario for white in this
I
opening.
I should know this
You should know
from the
this.
game you sent me.
Yeah.
That yeah, I that again, that's an incredible game. At some point, man, since she's playing the London. If there's ever an opportunity to show that, you probably knowing you and your photographic memory, you probably have it memorized. But I sat with that game long enough, analyzing it, and was really it was a fascinating game. Look at it. And I was thinking about like what the ideal setup was, and you were talking about that, like the ideal setup in this, and it becomes. Correct me if I'm off on this, but it's essentially black doing what they can to prevent you from getting the ideal setup you want in the system, which boils down to who can occupy or control E5, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
That could be
my
a big part of it. Yeah,
okay?
the thing about the London system is that it can go in a lot of different ways depending on how black plays and depending on what white wants to do. So but yeah, that's usually what I'm trying to do if black plays something. Is that Dr. Skull in the background there? I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he
Yeah.
just wants to be on the screen.
um.
I didn't realize Kevin was that tall.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Um. Oh. Okay. Well, I've never had her opponent making direct eye contact with me while
He
doing
keeps
commentary
looking
on
at,
this game, but
I think he's
it's
looking
throwing
at
me
you,
off a little
man.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
it's
kind of, he's
intimidating
like,
me.
what? Yeah.
You guys better be saying good stuff about me.
You know, he must have heard that I referred to Charles Davis as Mr. Green Sweater Man, and he's like, you will respect me, sir. You will.
I believe we have knight d7. I didn't quite see, but I think this is the move that he played. So
Okay.
Kamryn should play knight d2 in this position is what I would play. It's not the only move, but she could castle. She could play c3 or c4. But knight d2 and then knight e5, queen f3 is what I would be trying to do here.
Okay. And
I'm just gonna pardon me for a second. I'm gonna see if we have the actual
oh
round
yeah.
7 games. Looks like we might be in luck. We can just find. Here we go. I don't know why it says Kamryn won.
It
Oh,
was some foreshadowing.
I was right with the move.
We'll take it.
Yeah, the clocks are not moving, so okay, that's okay. We don't need the clocks as long as the moves are updating. That's good. So knight d2, yes, that's the move that I wanted
Okay.
her to play.
And again, is it just, I know I'm harping on E5 here, but it feels like everything they're doing is about control of that square at this point in the game.
Well, if
Or is this all just book?
well, the thing is, it's a little bit about controlling e5, but for black, if they really wanted to do that, they should have played bishop d6, traded those
Got you,
bishops.
fair. Yeah.
He's probably gearing up for c5. That's why knight d7 guards that square. And if c5 happens, white can
Oh,
just reply with c3, just shore up the d pawn.
okay.
So that's not really a worry at this point.
And the point of C5, is it beyond just creating space for the queen? Is it more about undermining that center pawn? Is it a bit of both? We talked earlier about trade 50 cents for a dollar, center pawn versus flank
It could be
pawn.
to
Is
play
it
queen b6. Yeah,
okay?
it puts pressure on the center. At some point, black might take under the right circumstances. So sometimes they might push to c4 if they think they're going to
Okay.
get space on the queen side and attack that way.
Is there is it passive? And I'm assuming the answer is yes, to play C6 instead in this position.
Yes.
Okay. Why is C6 bad? Just because of it being
Well, it
passive,
doesn't do
as
anything.
opposed to just
It just
striking
protects
center?
it protects the pawn. Why not go here? It's perfectly safe. In fact,
Got
if
you.
black plays
Okay.
c6, okay, I mean, so they can play this move. It's not a losing move or even really that bad, but it'll give white the chance to play c4 themselves.
Got you.
So, whoever gets to play c4 or c5 will get space on the queen side. So, in the London system, if you don't attack on the king side, you can go queen side. That's not impossible. It's not crazy.
Got you.
Okay, knight
Now
h5. This
that's
is a bit
interesting.
annoying. Yeah,
Yeah.
this basically ruins
Ah,
my
you
my
know
plan.
what? The I don't hate that for black,
Mhm.
um, because she doesn't have time to play h3.
Right. Yeah. This is the
And
timing to do
that's
this move. Yes, that's a
a
good
yeah,
point. Yep. If we had h3 in and knight h5 came, we
then
could
it's
drop
a
back and knight
yeah,
h5 is
the,
misplaced.
the yeah, the night is just like, why are you there? But doing it now, um,
Right.
yeah, that's a yeah,
So
he's like, no, I will ruin your day.
yeah.
That's a heck of a move. That's not a like I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh, actually, when you
Do you
play
see
this
that quite
as
a bit
white,
when
you
you
should
play this?
expect it all the time. Yeah, you should expect it all the time because this
Okay.
bishop's pretty good aiming through the center, and well, if black gets rid of it, there's less pressure on c7, but
Yeah.
also they can black will have the bishop pair. So for what it's worth, it's not a
Got
big
you.
deal. It happens all the time. Most of the time, I see London players play bishop g3, and then after it takes, you get a pawn structure like this. I think this favors white a bit when they haven't castled yet and they still have this rook aiming up here. It's
Got you.
not possible for
Yeah.
black to castle here. They can play f5 maybe, try to block things up. And the reason I say maybe is because the computer is mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a pawn g4 pawn break here, which is actually the best move even in this moment. This sacrifice. If they take, then
mm.
well, that knight e5 can be played, and there's problems for h7. So going knight h5 and taking on g3 isn't just about a trade. It can. I think it's a little bit better for black to wait and play that after white has castled. So c5 would have been the better move,
Okay.
or castling perhaps.
So it's just it seems a little premature, a little early, but
Perhaps, yeah.
I don't. But yeah, to your point, it looks cool now because it's aggressive, and I
Oh,
like
sorry.
that, being the type of aggressive player I tend to be.
It is
But
aggressive. White can be aggressive back, by the
mm,
way. We can play. We can actually ignore it, castle, and just say, okay, now you've wasted all these moves to take, and we have a lock on the e5 square. This is a
aha,
possible way to play. And there's also a pawn break on f5 if we need it for later.
huh. So
Yeah.
it looks cool for about, haha, I got the bishop pair, and but white has adequate compensation.
Right.
Curious to see.
And then I mean, even the computer's pointing out bishop e5 as a move instead of castles. Bishop e5. And if we trade on these terms, thinking maybe even pawn takes, but knight takes. Now this knight is attacked. Our knight
Yeah.
is in the center. They're going to need to go back. We castle, and I really like white's lead in development here.
Mm.
It's very good, and it's not so simple to get rid of this knight.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's hanging out like that. He's lovely right
I could
there.
see it going something like this. If you were to try to come, let's see, even f4 is a move here.
Yeah, to kind of to free that, to get that rook.
There are rook
Yeah.
lifts. There's queen lifts. There's all sorts of ideas, and this knight can never really be captured if you try to come with the bishop. I'm going to be very happy if this ever happens and the knight gets driven away and it's a free attack.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're just coming after black with
Oh,
everything we got.
that's just lovely.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is
she's going
so.
she's going to get water. And that means we've
Oh, she ignored it. She played 95. So she's going into basically she's going into this line where she's calling black's bluff, essentially saying, "You want to take my
like, yeah, you're
bishop?
not taking
Fine.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can if you want to, but maybe it's actually not very good for you. Look how developed white is. Look how much space white
Yeah.
has. If
Okay,
this
so
happens, it's very likely
yeah.
this will happen. Then black's plan, I think what they need to do is come with c5 and get counterplay here. This pawn will always be a little bit weak because this pawn got distracted. So c5 would be the way to start, and after c3, maybe queen b6, maybe take first and then queen b6. It's probably a good way for black to go. There's two pawns hanging here.
Right.
And oh, good, we finally have the clocks updating, I see. Something like this is very dicey. Computer likes it for black.
In this position, I was going to ask you, well,
You get this happening.
would you not protect both pawns?
How?
Uh,
Oh, knight b3
moving the
maybe?
knight to yeah.
Knight b3, there's a
What does that
bishop
lose
check,
to?
first of all. There's a bishop check.
Right.
But there's also a5, a4,
Okay.
trying to kick that knight. So knight f3 is a bit safer. Actually, now that I think about it, why isn't there a bishop check here? I think there probably is. Peter likes this for white. I mean, king f1's an interesting move, by the way. We just don't even care that we can't castle anymore. We're safe on f1.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't
We're
even think
gonna do
about
this.
that. Like it's a yeah, you just hang out. Like you're I was gonna ask you, I'm like, I don't think I don't think you're castling anyway.
So we're going down this line in the game. Knight takes f4 was played. Takes. Oh, no, actually it's different. Ah, he took on e5. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about that, actually. It's almost like a French defense now. All of a sudden, I don't think I've ever seen this before, where a London system has transposed into some sort of advanced French.
Yeah. Now that
And
like wow.
yeah. But this moment is going to be tricky because you probably don't want to play c3.
Right.
It's the
Do
natural
you
move. It's a very
are you
natural
pl-
move, but yeah.
do you move that knight now? No, because well maybe the other
c4.
way.
The problem with moving the knight is c4, and your bishop gets kicked back, and you're not. Oh, you want to be on this diagonal.
Got you.
So c3 is
Um
very natural here to protect the pawn, and if this happens, you go back.
to go there. Got you. Okay.
Stay on the diagonal.
Yep.
But here's the problem: instead of c4, black has queen b6, and there's pressure here, and there's pressure here, similar to what we were looking at before.
Right. Can you play the knight move? No, because you fork. Never mind.
This is
I want to
almost
play
going to
that knight
try.
there so badly.
The very strange thing about this, it could head down a line very similar to the French defense game that Kamryn lost the other day as black. Like
Oh wow.
eerily similar. There were more pieces on the board then, but like if we defend this pawn, rook b1, say, and takes, here's that queen coming into the center. This is what Kamryn did in her game as black. She won this pawn. Um, the queen, she ended up losing some tempos with the queen, and she was up a pawn, but black got a big attack on black's king. Remember, these two pieces could never get out.
Could never get out. And it's the same thing.
Same thing, but the key difference, I think, why black is so much better in this position compared to that is that there's one set of pieces that have already been traded off. There's an additional set of pieces traded. There's no knight that was sort of in the way of this bishop moving out. And so
Gotcha.
black will actually have an easier time finishing their development.
That's you know what? Yeah. Bishop gets out, rook gets out. There's nothing to untangle.
Yeah. So we could
And
go down
and
something almost like she's playing the same position reversed. I could see her. I mean, she would kind of know what to do based on what her opponent played. And but
and
the
and you
best
can't
move
take
here
that
is hard
pawn.
to
It
find.
just that just opens things up. That just invites
You mean
all
taking
kinds
here?
of yeah.
Well, okay. The computer makes fools of all of us. That's actually the best move.
I was tricking you
Oh
when I
yeah,
said it.
testing
I
me.
was testing you.
Yeah.
I knew you take that pawn in, but I
Yeah.
wanted to see if you knew. I wanted to see if chat knew.
It's the best
None
move,
of you
and
knew.
I've seen it in some French defense games where you actually do just take, and the rationale it could be well because it looks counterintuitive at first. You're letting this bishop come to a more active square. You're getting rid
That
of
was
your center pawn,
my
which
thought. I'm like,
supports
yeah,
this.
you're bringing that in. Yeah.
But here's what it does: it avoids the problems with queen b6 where you have two weaknesses. You no longer have to worry about
Yeah.
defending a pawn on d4 anymore for the rest of the game. And you stop c4 annoyingness. So
Mm.
the actual best thing to do is to take. After bishop takes, yes, the bishop gets to a better square, but we just castle. I believe we can just castle. Oh, it doesn't even like this move that much. Bishop
I was
d4.
gonna say,
Okay.
man, does the knight move work now? I'm dying to play
Knight
knight.
f3.
No, actually,
Or knight
knight
here.
b3.
Yes, knight
Yeah,
b3 is good. Knight b3. Queen e2, which is what her opponent played in the game that she had. Queen e2. Um, there is apparently a threat to play bishop d4 and attack both pawns. So you have to do something that deals with that. And there's a variety of moves. There's queen g4, which makes a threat and guards here. There's queen e2, which is maybe a little bit more conservative, just defending this.
right.
And there's also your move knight b3, which I
Oh,
kind of like.
which actually, yeah, kind of it defends both as
You see the
well.
bishop go back. The only thing about knight b3 is that now that it did gain a tempo on the bishop, but now the bishop dominates the knight. It controls all of its squares. And you're going to have to maneuver it back at some point if you're going to do anything. If you're thinking about attacking on the king side, your knight is further away from where you really want it to be.
Fair point.
So
Yeah.
the best move, the most flexible moves, are queen e2 or queen g4 in this position. But first, after c5, she needs to take. And she's played bishop to
Yeah.
b5, and I'm afraid that's not a very good move. Um,
Oh no, no, we like the bishop, like, because that's
you're
just helping
right.
black.
It's helping
Because
black.
now it's a
That's right.
French.
Yes. If black goes bishop d7, they're happy to trade the bishops off.
Yeah, they're like, thank you. I wanted to get my rook into the game anyway.
Yeah, it may not be the end of the world, but it really solves a huge problem that black has in this position, which is how do I get this bishop in the game?
Yeah,
She may not have realized that there was, I mean, because c4 is very annoying. If you play c3 takes is also kind of annoying. So she may not have realized that she had resources here. Taking looks wrong optically,
right.
but bishop check. Oh, it just trades off her best piece or best attacker piece
Yeah.
for the worst
Uh,
piece,
uh.
unfortunately. Yeah, and this is what's happening. We're trading.
I think that's what's happened. Yeah, like it's already on the board. Yeah.
Yep, it's on the board. Okay, so queen d7 should happen. That is on the board as well. And so, what does Kamryn have in mind here? I think taking is still the best move,
Yeah. It's like you
but
almost have to now because it's hanging.
yeah, that's an
Or do
interesting
you
point.
move well, then you've moved that knight a few times.
I guess we can castle actually, and
Because you
if
can get that.
takes,
Yeah,
we
if he
can get it
takes, you can
back.
get it at any time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's correct. She did play c3. Okay.
This really is a French now, an advanced
Yeah,
French. Yeah.
it's a weird advanced French where all the minor pieces have been traded, almost all.
Right.
Usually, you have almost all of your pieces on the board in this position, so it's like an empty French defense. The board is just empty, just the pawn structure of a French defense. Which yeah, it's hard to tell if we get into some position whether the bishop is better than the knight or vice versa. The center is pretty blocked, so that might favor the knight. But the pawns are going to be on dark squares, and the bishop will have some targets to go after. So that might favor the
Black seems
bishop.
content to just let that tension hang out too.
He just castled. He
Yeah.
should have been more aggressive and taken on d4 because then let's maybe back up here for a second. After takes, there's a permanent weakness here. There's also one here. Queen b5 would have been an annoying move, attacking the pawn
Oh
and
yes.
stopping castling.
Yeah.
So In fact, it's really just about stopping castling. If queen here, we can try to trade queens. White would be happy with that, I think. But queen a6,
Yeah, and you're
keep you
you're hanging
covered.
out.
Yeah. How do you get this rook in the game? It's not so
You
easy.
don't. Yeah, this would be
Well, you might play
well,
like h4 and a rook lift,
can
but
he I mean it's I hate to say this, would I don't think there's a situation where you ever long castle here, would you?
um, you are braver than most men, Omar. That's all I'm
Well,
going to say about
I say if you can't
that.
castle, then you can castle the way that gets you in even more trouble.
No,
You get the rook in the game.
it might be actually not so bad. I'm teasing. Castle queenside. Yeah,
There's
there's a
an
rook
immediate check.
check, but you get out
Yeah,
of it, and there's
you get out
not
of it,
much more
and
danger
it's
beyond that. But you
yeah,
do sort of give them the tempo to develop. It's not that bad. It doesn't actually change the evaluation much. C3 was played, black castled, and Kamryn replied with castling. Once again, it wants to take this pawn because it really doesn't. The computer does not want to get saddled with a pawn here should black take. You have to defend forever. You have to defend against
yeah.
any sort of threat on the diagonal, any sort of rook coming in like this. This pawn is the target for black. But you can get rid of that. You can take, and after it takes, then you can castle. So nothing wrong with the move castling. Just it was important to take on c5 first. Basically, somebody has to take one way or another on d4 or c5, and whoever does it first will have an edge.
Mm.
This pawn is easy to protect. You have f4 eventually. You got to get out of the pin. You have rook e1. You have queen e2. This pawn is much easier to protect than a pawn on d4. It's not so easy for black to go after it. And I think possibly another important detail is having this pawn on c3. If white takes, this pawn never gets drawn to d4. So the c file stays blocked from any
Nice.
black's rooks trying to get in. It's not so simple. So she's castled and rook ac8. So nobody wants to take. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Now knight f3 makes sense in addition to taking on c5 because if black takes, we take back with the knight. Kamryn should be feeling pretty comfortable here because she plays a French defense as black. This isn't any
Yeah.
sort of main line, but she'll be familiar with the structures and what the basic plans are.
With that rook on c8,
Hmm.
how do you feel now about taking same way?
Yeah, and I feel like it's much more likely that she's going to take now. And as I say that, she plays rook c1.
Yeah, that's just I'm only comfortable with it. I would have never thought of it apart from again, no pressure sitting here going, what if we just do this? And the only thing that's kind of justifying the move is the fact that you were like, yes, that's actually what you ought to do. And I'm like, really? Um, because it doesn't feel like it again, it's the first thought I had was, well, that can't be right because you're inviting the bishop to come in and just target just to make life miserable for you on that
You mean
diagonal.
you mean here?
No, I meant the other way. Like like why taking that
Why taking
pawn?
this? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, why
Right,
taking this doesn't feel like it
right.
feels counterintuitive.
Hmm. You're right. That's true. I think right now it's about shutting down the C file. And you see when he went rook c8 and not having a long term weakness, that's a problem here. Um, with the rook on c8, black is signaling that they want to take this and open the file. And so it was. I think that after rook c1, he's going to take. And the
Yeah,
computer likes black so much because there is a way to win a pawn. This is the bad news for white. Is that now,
yeah, and
after
then
all these
you,
trades, queen a4, I believe, is winning a pawn. This threat, and there's this.
ooh,
And this would be painful. This is on the board so far.
yep, and and here it comes. I wonder if he'll see it. I wonder if he's already seen it.
Well, he might play rook takes. I think that's pretty likely.
Yep.
And then it's possible if he doesn't see queen a4 that black would just play rook c8.
Right.
Rook c8 grabs control over the file. I mean, that's super tempting to do. Queen b1. And now it might be too late to play this because you're not. It's not a double attack. Queen here, you get knight f3 or maybe knight b3. And maybe white's holding on here. This seems okay. We're actually a bit of in a bind because we need to guard this pawn. That means that our queen is stuck here. We can't move our knight because this is attacked. We can't play a3 to guard the pawn
Right.
because then the knight's unprotected. And we also can't go rook c1 because of, oh, it's not our turn, but let's say h6, rook c1. Takes, don't play knight takes because then you get mated.
Mm.
But if you take with the queen, I believe they take on a2, and this is threatened. Check is possible. No, I don't think it is possible because if you go pawn grabbing, it looks like you save the knight, but you get mated again.
Oh, geez. And
Yeah,
if you come down
so
the other way, it's just perpetuals, right?
this could
Yeah.
get very painful very quickly with either rook takes c1 or queen a4, and both it's very likely that one of those two moves is going to happen on the next turn. Okay, so the thing is that Kamryn is moving very quickly compared to the last game,
Yeah.
and I don't know why.
That
Maybe she's trying. I mean,
fatigue, man, I gotta
could
imagine.
be, could
You
be,
know.
yeah, could be. She did get into some time pressure in that game towards the end that she didn't have time to find that draw. So maybe she's thinking, okay, yeah, I have to speed up a little bit, but you have to be very careful about that because if you mess up too much in the opening, you might not ever make it to an end game. So
Let me
yeah,
ask you
I'm
this.
a little
I just
nervous for white in this
idea
position. Yeah.
for black. I'm just curious what see what you think of this.
Okay.
Um takes like rook takes, right? I want to drag the queen over.
Yeah. Rook
Um
takes c1. Okay.
yeah, but instead of playing the other rook move immediately, playing uh bishop to g5.
Yeah. Bishop g5 is
Now,
always
mind
edge.
you, he's
Okay.
going to play that pawn move, but I
Yeah.
wanted to provoke that and bring it back just to create another weakness.
It's not a weakness though. This pawn is a strength.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, of course. Well, first of all, it's protected, but second of all,
Right.
white might play f4 voluntarily. In fact, in this position,
Really?
maybe not immediately, but yeah, f4 is the move if you want to play f5 and try to attack, maybe even f6, and get something going against Black's king. I mean, this is a pretty standard idea actually.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, this has been played.
Okay. And then
I think
rook
now she has
comes
to go
over.
queen
Yep.
b1, guard the pawn. Okay, this one I'm less worried about for Kamryn, actually. This is a good development, I think. Because after queen a4, not knight b3, that was a little bit awkward, but knight f3,
Okay.
I feel like that's what she should play. And yeah, it's not actually obvious that black is better. Computer's saying black is better, but I know the rook and queen are more active, but it feels like the biggest danger is past, and black's moves now are not super clear what they should do. There is apparently a very annoying rook c2 move
I was thinking that. Yeah.
because you can't really get rid of this rook from c2. It doesn't seem easy to accomplish that. The problem is if you go rook c1, I'm taking, and then I'm taking on a2.
Right.
And then if you play b3, I just take on a2.
Oh, geez.
And if you play, yeah, maybe you could play a3, but then there's queen b3, and then you're going to lose b2. So you can't. You kind of have to leave the pawns on a2 and b2 the way they are, and it's very hard to figure out what to do instead. So I'm nervous this might happen. Is queen b1 is played, and black is thinking now.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we see the queen move, then he has figured out your thought.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is round 5. Kamryn has 2 out of 4 points. She's playing yet another 1600. So far, every round she's played up. Just came off of kind of a tough loss, so we're looking to see if she can rebound here. But at the moment, the position is difficult out of the opening. Not that that can't turn around, but it for the moment, it's unpleasant situation for white. Black's pieces are very active, and she's going to have to come up with something, some way to get her pieces more active. What I like to do in these situations is to try to find some way to attack my opponent, put pressure on them. I would like to play a 4 f5. I know you said what happens if black tries to provoke this move, but actually we want to
Yeah,
do this.
that was
And
hugely educational for me. I'm like, wait,
mhm.
what? You
Yeah,
want that?
well,
Yeah,
it's the you have to look for your pawn breaks, right? How
got
am I
you.
going to open up this king or open up a line for my rook? Black owns the c file already. He might just play something like queen c7. Let's hope that that's what they do, because that's actually not very dangerous. We can't contest the c file, but um, at least there's no threats. He
Right.
has moved. He went queen c6. Okay, so good. I'm glad I said that. Maybe he's listening to me and he heard queen c6 or queen
He
c7.
did
And
look at you. He's been looking at you. He was like, no, I will
yeah,
do it this way.
uh huh. Well, the thing about this move is I'm not sure exactly how black wants to follow up. They could maybe do like a queen c2 move, but I have a feeling if we trade queens this way, it could peter out. So, for example, let's
Yeah.
say we go knight f3. If queen c2, and we could just do some rook move. We could have trades like this. And I think white is pretty close to being even. I know black has this open file, but coming to
But
c2,
yeah,
there's not really anything
there's
to it.
there's nothing there.
Maybe we can have time to bring our king over. And then finally get our rook activated. Something like that. If we could, if okay, so at this point, I mean, what Kamryn would like to do is get an endgame with this bishop versus the knight. I think that's what she has to go for. So if she
Okay.
gets a chance to trade queens, um, well, like in this variation, she can't just take. Oh, maybe she could actually. She could take and go rook b1. It's very passive, but there's a chance that she can free her rook eventually. Anyway, it's hard to come up with moves here for white that really improve her position. But yeah, what you can sometimes do if you see somebody's on the verge of attacking on one side, you want to go for counterplay in the center or counterplay on the opposite side. So f4 is a candidate move here. I think it's probably risky, but the point is, if we get f5 in, we just need like one more move to be able to start making some threats. g6 is annoying.
Right.
It pretty much shuts that down. Yeah, so maybe we move our knight, and if queen c2, so this would be a way to get a draw. f2 now, and we could
I
just go
got you.
back and forth like this
Yeah.
until black decides, okay, I should be trying for a win. My position is better, even though their advantage is really gone, and they back up. Now we bring our king out, and we are completely fine in a position like this. Completely fine here. Okay, but a lot is going to depend on how she responds to queen c6. I wouldn't mind even some move that g3 or g3 maybe that makes it so there's no back rank worries for her. But I sort of like that line with f4. I could see things trading off very quickly.
Question for you.
Mm.
From this position as black, let's say white, I think Kamryn has to move that knight because the idea I have is to target that d pawn. So she's got to move the knight to protect it, to defend it.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I was thinking like the queen could go to b6. Um, if that
So like
b
this and
pawn
then queen
wasn't
b6.
there, yeah, but she does that, it goes away.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
why I was
let's
like,
say
she's got to move that. But in the current,
g3, queen here.
yeah, that's a. But she can still defend it. She can still move the
Yeah,
knight,
knight
so
f3.
it's not as dangerous as I'm thinking.
By the way, not knight b3, because the knight on b3 can get harassed by the a pawn. So
Gotcha. I was looking at this because I was debating whether or not it makes sense to bring the bishop over to b4 to attack the knight, but then it just you're kind of provoking it to go where it needs to go anyway.
right, yeah. Bishop to
Yeah,
b4 is not really too much of a worry. Our knight's not doing
yeah,
anything really on d2, so forcing it to move
yeah. You're almost like you're forcing
probably helps
her to
white. Yeah,
make a good move. Yeah,
yeah. So let's see. Yeah. Well, Kamryn is now slowing down because it's sort of to the point where the moves are not so obvious anymore. Tell you the top computer move is rook d1. Rook d1, if something like queen a4, not an obvious move, then knight b3. Can't be harassed in this moment because the queen is in the way. And
and
it
you can't take. Yeah,
feels like everything is sort of protected, but we looked at a situation like this before. We would like to contest this rook. It gets captured, and then there's problems on a2, or if you take with the knight, then there's queen d1 mate. But maybe white can just sort of sit here and say, I have everything protected. Prove to me that you can do something, that your position is better. What are you going to do? And the big problem that black has to solve is what to do with this bishop. Because it can't it can go here, but it's not aiming at anything.
yeah.
It can go here, but it's not aiming at anything. It could maybe drop back and come
That's what
around.
I was thinking too. You could do that, but I like that earlier. It's a little slow. That was my thinking. When I saw when I was debating the queen move, it was like, well,
Yeah.
wait a minute, maybe the bishop can uh briefly go to d8 to reroute itself to b6.
I think if it happens now, it's not a bad plan, but in this moment, let's do a move for white like h3, let's just say.
Yeah,
Bishop b6. Now I go rook c1. I couldn't really play this move before, but I can now because if rook takes, we have a mate threat. So there's not time to take here or here.
yeah.
Apparently black is still better. I suppose you stop the mate and then both pawns are hanging. Yeah, it's a struggle. This position is going to be a struggle for Kamryn, I think. It's hard to move anything because we're so tied down to the weak pawns.
Yeah.
This is why it was important to take on this square. Earlier, while she
Mm,
had the chance, again, it was counterintuitive, but there are reasons for it. This pawn is a liability, and right now we have two of our most powerful pieces stuck here guarding it. And it's a big
Oh, I
deal to
thought
lose
this
it.
was still
Yeah.
you like trying out moves. This is the live position.
No, sorry, the live position is here.
Oh, okay, but
But
it's
but that's a very
we're
plausible scenario.
plausible scenario. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
historically done all the moves you've predicted. So that's I could see us very very easily ending up there depending on what she does. But yeah, it's a um it seems like it just makes sense to move that knight to D3. I'm sorry, to F3.
Yeah, knight f3 feels like sort of the natural thing to do. Not sure it's actually good.
No, because you were talking about that pawn break and it prevents that.
Yeah, with the f4 f5 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This black's control over the c file. I mean, they have a point with queen c6. It's just so there might not even be an actual threat of invasion or anything like that, but it's just so strong. It almost paralyzes white's entire position. There's the one open file. We can't get our rook to it. It wouldn't surprise me if she plays knight b3 in this position.
I the more I look at it, the more I'm thinking like what you said, yeah, just to kind of get the rook to that file to have to fight for that file.
Yeah, in fact,
And it does the same thing in terms of protecting that pawn. That's a weakness. It yeah, and there is no mate um if you're black because of that pawn push, but it's a much more enjoyable position for white from the looks of things if she can kind of just get something going.
yeah, this might be a reasonable attempt because I don't think black's move response is very obvious here. You actually can't play a5 yet. Rook c1 is the idea, it's coming, and if we get a chance, we might even trade off queens as well. Queen a4 is the move that's problematic with all the threats, the
Mm.
pressure on the weaknesses. That's hard to resolve that. But um, yeah, maybe just knight b3 is the best practical move. I know again the computer wants rook d1, then it wants like h3 or g3. Basically waiting. Black doesn't have any sort of like killer blow here. Even queen c2 I'm not
Yeah.
too worried about. For example, let's say queen c2. We move the knight somewhere, it's in danger. Or maybe we even go rook d1. That's possible. But let's just say knight f3. And the queen is sitting on c2, fine, but there's not a threat here for black. And if they take, they get a favorable position with the rook on c2, but they can't really take anything.
Yeah.
And by the way, we can attack this rook. It's not like the rook is perfectly safe. It goes here, we can go back. That's like if the players are content with a draw, that's a reasonable idea. It's just to go here and repeat.
Yeah.
Of course, knight e1, black could retreat the rook, attack the pawn perhaps, but
Kind of, yeah, in the same situation.
similar situation, yeah. 6, maybe f6, and after it takes, the bishop comes in. The problem is if we go here, there's rook c2, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't protect everything.
But the advantage is actually not that big for black. Why is that?
I think she moved.
Played f4. Okay, we'll jump back to the game. f4 is a move that I think we looked at briefly.
Yeah, that was you were like, this is the move we want. And I was like, no, this is the move I wanted to provoke,
That's right,
but
yeah.
not because you wanted it. Yeah.
The correct plan now for black, for sure the correct plan for black, is to go with the bishop back to b8, to
To
d8 and
do,
to
yeah.
b6 and to attack this pawn. In addition, it's a pin on the king. So it's rather scary looking. Um, but this is, I mean, we saw Cameron's fighting spirit in the last game. This is fighting spirit right here. She's not content to just play some defensive moves and guard everything. She's
Yeah.
trying to make something happen, and it could get a reaction from black. I could see G6, and G6 sort of is an overreaction, perhaps. I don't know that F5 is actually that dangerous, although it looks like
You
it could get a
you
little
can't ignore it
nasty, but
forever. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you can't ignore it forever. That's true. I mean, I'd love to get the pawn to here
That would be lovely.
and start to open things up around the king. So she's played F4, getting aggressive, and now her opponent needs to decide, do I need to react to this move? Can I keep going on the queen side? A lot. What happens next is really going to depend on, like, the whole outcome of the game might depend on how black responds to this, to be honest. I think it's a pretty important moment because it's all about
So
the momentum. If white
here's
starts attacking and black is just defending, who cares that black
yeah,
has this open file anymore, right?
yeah.
So black needs to keep the pressure on the queen side to distract her from playing any sort of f5 moves. Sorry, go ahead.
So let me ask you this, and I'm sorry, I kept like over
No, it's
talking
okay.
you. Um, I just got excited because I think I see something. Um, if you're black, I kind of feel like if you don't trade queens here, the queen on that diagonal is you've got two on that. So when that pawn takes, you can take with the queen, and you've got a battery waiting to
Yeah,
happen.
right. So this
Yeah.
is this is what could start to get scary for black if he sort of overestimates white's chances with this f5 move. And just to give black or white a move here, just say a6, kind of a wasted move. But yeah, actually, you know what? Even after bishop to d8, maybe we play it f5.
Yeah.
And you're right. If takes, then we take, and then there's pressure all of a sudden. Can't do a
I mean,
move
you can
like queen
defend it.
g6, you lose
Yeah.
this.
Right.
But and I'm
You can
surely
move the
black
queen
is
up.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
the queen could
Or
go
the
here, could go
yeah.
here. But the bigger point is that black is on the defensive here. And that's the key to making a comeback here and getting out of a worse situation. And then eventually your opponent's defending and they make a mistake, and all of a sudden you're better. And this is how you fight back. You have to be sometimes more aggressive than you were before.
Mm.
So Queen C2 was played, and I don't think that this was the best move.
Okay, this was what I was thinking though. So that tells you it's not the best move. Because this
Yeah.
is what I was thinking. I was like, you got to trade this here, right? Because of the very thing we talked about. Like, yeah, get them off the board.
Yeah, black might be happy. Well, black will definitely be happy if white just takes it. Then the rook comes in,
Right.
and it's like
And
Christmas. We're
has
taking
that.
everything.
That's what I was thinking. But you're saying that that's not what's better for black in this position, other than
uh,
this, because this is
Other
what I
than
was
Queen
thinking.
C2. Well,
Yeah.
I mentioned this bishop D8, bishop
Oh yeah.
B6 attack. This weakness. This is the target, really. But after Queen C2, I think Cameron's going to be, or should be, very satisfied with a queen trade. But she shouldn't take the queen. She should let black take her queen.
Got
And
you.
probably
Okay.
right now, at this moment, she needs to move her knight somewhere. And I'm not sure if it's b3 or f3, but maybe knight f3. And if black takes, we take with the rook. Yes, this rook gets to the second rank, which is annoying, but we
Annoying
have
and
knight e1. No, we have knight
yeah.
e1 here,
Okay, this
believe
is
it or
the line
not.
you showed before.
It's similar, but before we had a pawn on f2,
Looks like she
and I think it doesn't make a very big difference. She went knight b3. Okay, maybe this is also
yeah.
okay.
Okay, so she's listening to you.
But this way is a little bit worse, and I'll tell you why. It's
Hmm.
because if black takes and we take, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, I see. Okay. I thought this was a little bit worse because there's no knight attack on the rook.
Yeah.
There actually is. We could play knight a1. So how often do you get to move your knight to a1 and make a
Yeah.
threat? We could
Only
play knight
you
e1. The,
see this.
the idea is
Literally only you.
rook d2, we attack the rook,
Yep.
and it kind of just has to go back and forth. If it ever goes to e2, we attack it with the king.
Okay, he looks like he. What did he do? I think he moved the bishop.
Bishop to b4. Yeah, probably not a very good move. I don't know what the bishop's doing on b4. But just to finish the thought here, there's
Yeah.
another idea for white that equalizes, which I think is to just play rook c1.
Rook c1 there. Yeah.
You give
And
up
then
this
then
pawn,
we're.
but you get the activity and you
Eh,
get your knight in and you're going here and you're trying to checkmate.
eh, I
So this
like
is,
it.
yeah, um, this is the danger that black could face if white's pieces get active. But by the way, f4 means that there's no back rank mate to worry about for white.
Ah, I didn't even think about that.
It's an interesting detail. Okay, we have to go to the
Yeah.
game because bishop to b4,
I'm like, yeah, what is that? What is that
it
doing?
must be wrong. No, it must be wrong. This was a bad inaccuracy because that bishop belongs attacking the pawn here. It doesn't belong here. There's nothing. There's no target for it. Yeah, this just gives her a chance to. Now the computer's saying even. I don't know exactly how white takes advantage of this. It's basically a free tempo.
Hmm.
Maybe the idea of bishop to b4 is he wants to play a5 and a4. But right now there's a critical continuation. Actually, it's very similar to what I just showed you. We could take the queen.
Yep.
This is what she should do. We should take the queen. Rook takes, rook c1. Okay. Now black would
Yep.
need to trade rooks,
Yep.
and we get into this endgame where um, I don't know which side I even prefer. There's this pawn is always going to be easy to attack,
Yeah.
but it's also pretty easy to defend it. The king can eventually come in and do that job as well. So there shouldn't be any problems here for white. It's closed, semi-closed,
Yep.
at least in the center is blocked up, so maybe that favors the knight a little bit. In any case, knights in endgames are pretty tricky. If this
Yep.
happens, we're heading very quickly towards a draw. It'd be hard for either side to make progress. Although I've said that many times in her games, and they've
And
always ended
yeah,
in
she finds a way.
decisive
Yeah.
results. Yeah. But the nice detail here, and I just showed this a second ago, is if black gets greedy, they lose a piece. Check. Bishop has to drop back, and knight c5. Okay, knight d7 is winning a bishop. Rook
I was
c2,
gonna
they
say,
could
what
try
about
to,
rook c2?
but I think we can just very calmly move out of the way, out of the pin, and this is coming on the next move anyway.
Gotcha.
So black could fall for this. I do think it's unlikely because after rook c1, like once we get to this position, or not rook c1, that's possible also,
I was
but
gonna say, yeah, that's like,
we
yeah,
take, once we go rook c1 in this position, black could calculate and see that their king gets into trouble. I don't think they're going to fall for that. I think they're going to trade. And we get this endgame. And based on the position we had a little bit ago, if Kamryn can find her way to this position, it'll be a major accomplishment. Once again, she'll have fought back from a pretty tough position. By the way, bishop d2 is not something to worry about because knight e2. We guard everything. Just guard everything. Yeah, I almost went knight d3 and blundered the game away with this.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Are there any moves? No, she's thinking here.
Yeah.
Yeah, bishop b4. That one tempo really matters. It really, really matters here. Maybe rook c1 leads to the same thing. So that would be good news for Kamryn. Either if both of these moves work, we'll be pretty happy. Rook c1, then I believe if queen takes, we take. And then if rook c2, it's the same thing. Just takes one more move to get there. Okay, so the good news is that she can either take the queen now and play rook c1, or she can play rook c1 first and then get to that same position where we trade off the rooks and queens and we get to the knight versus bishop ending. That's what we want. It might be pretty hard for her to fight for more than a draw, but she can play without really much worry at that time. So yeah, poor choice by black. I don't think he realized that white can now force both the queen and rook off the board.
Right.
And
Off of that
that's a big
one
deal
tease.
because
Yeah.
both black's queen and rook are better than white's queen and rook.
What I don't get, man, is if why play, like to your point, why play the bishop move? If you brought the queen down there, it was to trade queens to prevent the other threat we were talking about, is my assumption. Why bring her down there to not take if you're black?
Yeah, maybe the
That
bishop
doesn't
wants
make
to.
any sense to me.
They might want to go to d2. I bet this is what he wants to do. So if we somehow give black a move, like let's say we play h3, bishop d2 is interesting because now there's no rook c1, and if we take, everything is attacked. And also, I
Right.
want to play rook c2 and try to checkmate you. So
Gotcha.
something like this would be bad for white. So I think black wants to maybe try to get a trade of the bishop for the knight, but I don't see a way to really force it. I mean, white. I mean, he should have calculated rook c1 and queen takes queen. Maybe he just made an assumption that it's okay for him, or maybe he miscalculated something later. I don't know. But she did take, and after rook takes c2, she needs to find rook c1. Oh, maybe she can play rook f2 as well. Rook f2 might be
Yeah, because that.
possible. And just say, you're not taking anything. Yeah, rook
Yeah.
f2. Uh, I mean, black shouldn't trade rooks, but the thing is, they can keep the rook on the board now, potentially. So I prefer rook c1 because it's much more forcing. If the rook backs up, black's rook is still better placed than white's, but that's not what does the computer want here? Apparently there's a move that keeps the advantage. Rook c4, just keep the pressure on this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, see, like this is a little bit annoying because there is a5,
There's
a4
that.
coming.
Yeah, and that's
At this
coming.
point, that's what's going to happen next, most likely. So, and again, black's rook gets more active. Even if we don't lose any pawns or anything, like let's say we chase the bishop away, we can defend this pawn. We can even overprotect it, but we're passive. We're defending. If we play rook c1, it forces the matter. The rook must take the rook. There is rook back somewhere, but still, I think we'll trade the rooks regardless. We just want to endgame with the knight versus the bishop. That's the bottom line.
Gotcha.
Not that we're better, but we've dodged all the bullets that we were looking at earlier. We got into a tough position out of the opening, but we're back to even, and maybe we can fight for more after that. You should realize that if she goes rook f2, this rook might just go back, and it's hard
Yeah,
to
you
find a
almost
good
want to
square for
force.
her
You have
rook.
to force it. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to force it. The margins in these games have been teeny
She's
tiny.
been.
It's just
Yeah.
been
It's a with opponents who are significantly higher than her in terms of rating.
yeah. Both games that she lost, she could have won. At some point, she was winning in both of those games,
I
and
don't. I don't think she found it in. I
rook
think she
f2. No, she
played.
played rook f2. I'll take this.
Okay.
He may just trade. He might back up. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, and this is something I really struggle with. I feel like sometimes you're playing too much. Like there's some positions where you just can't be playing for a win all the time.
Right.
Obviously, we want to win, but I think White's lucky to even be in this situation where she hasn't lost a pawn and she's not getting positionally dominated anymore. That a draw we should be pretty satisfied with. So going
That's
rook
hard.
c1 and try
That's
and
hard to
trading
do.
would be like
Yeah.
she probably rejected Well, there's two things. Maybe she didn't realize that this was okay and that this is very dangerous for black.
Right.
I think she probably figured that out, but it's possible that she calculated something like rook c1 takes rook here,
And then the bishop comes back
bishop
and
blocks
not
knight.
thinking through,
Well,
yeah,
she
maybe
probably.
shut it down there.
I think maybe that's possible, but even after this, she might have shut it down after the pin, which again is too early to shut
Yes.
it down because we can just move out of the way, and there's nothing black can do to stop knight d7. So it's possible she didn't see that it's just easy to move out of this.
Yeah. I
I don't know.
shoot, you know, it's, I am notorious for going four moves deep into a variation, seeing that at pin and going, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's possible that's what
Yeah.
happened. It's also possible that she rejected this move because she felt like there were not winning chances here, which is sort of what I was getting at before with
Right.
wanting to try too hard to win. Sometimes the position is just calling for simplification, and if you try to keep the rooks on the board in this position, you're playing with fire because black's rook is better placed than yours. But it depends on what black does. I mean, they should go rook c4 just to put the pressure on the pawn. She's not losing it right away, but she'll have a defensive task now that she has to do. If they had traded rooks, there was nothing that she had to really worry about defending. The bishop alone couldn't overpower the knight, so um, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I think it's a game; anything can really happen. But the big question is, can black eventually win this d4 pawn? And with the rook on the board and the bishop on the board, there's two pieces that can gang up on it. Oh, it's Kamryn's move. He moved. Oh, he went rook c8.
Oh, he went all the way back. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, that's a bit of a relief. It's a relief. And the bar says it's even now. I don't know. I still feel like I prefer black, but the move now is a3. Get out of here with this bishop.
Yeah.
That's a very natural move to make, so I expect we'll see that. And the bishop goes back, and now I suppose we can start to activate the king. At this point, rook c4 does not feel dangerous because it's not even a threat. We just keep bringing the king until we can go rook c2 and trade the rooks that way.
Yeah. If we can get the
We can
rooks
even
off
go
the
here
board,
and trade rooks this way.
I kind of prefer white if there are no rooks on the board, simply because that knight can go to colors that the bishop
Mm-hmm.
cannot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Why did he go to c8? That's such a weird move. It's not really necessary to guard the back rank here. And why not pressure the d4 pawn? Make it harder for white's knight to move. That was the concern, is that with the rook on c4 attacking here, then black could try to dislodge the
Could
knight
come
and
down.
maybe win something. So yeah, I'm surprised that he went this way. It's too passive. Too passive.
Mm. I gotta be honest. I you're calling out things that I can never unhear it, but like
Okay.
thinking about those pawns and pushing those to attack the knight. I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's very easy for players that are under a certain rating level to think in pieces as opposed to in games and pawns and like see the
Mm.
entire board, which is where you'll get. You correct me if I'm off on this, but I'm thinking more with my 900 brain versus these. Obviously, these players are much higher rated than me,
Okay, Mr.
but
900, lay
yeah,
down some
exactly.
knowledge on us.
Here's the thing, but passive is passive, and at the board, it's a listen. Back rank is scary for everybody, regardless of
It's true.
you
Yeah.
know, and I get that. Like him looking at this, having the position that he had, his initial plan did not. Well, I'm betting that F4 probably surprised him because again, it was a move I was saying, well, you want to provoke that. And you're like, actually, that's what we want.
Yeah.
And then when you see it and you realize, wait a minute, that queen's on that diagonal, this is a problem. I better trade. So he went from having a control of a file with, dominating, feeling really good as black to now he's got some thinking to do. And now it's
Yeah.
not so clear. And if those rooks do come off the board, that knight's better than that bishop. And so retreating all the way back is like, well, let me reset.
Mhm.
I don't know that he's thinking strategically just yet because his initial plan didn't work out. And maybe that's a little bit of frustration.
Could
I don't
be.
know. I'm speculating,
Yeah.
but the I know that if I did, I've got the benefit of you and a bar. And when you say, yeah, because that pawn can go up here, what's in my head is I wasn't even thinking about that pawn, and now I am. And here's the thing, and now I will from now on in positions like this.
Look, Omar, you don't remember all your training from our pawn structure course that we did 2, 3 years ago now, however long it's been?
It's starting to come back. It's starting to come like it's you
Good.
forget, man. You forget how important
Yeah.
these
The little
the
details.
pawns are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
And
should know
that's
better
why
because
I did that course because little things like, okay, the pawn is coming here, or this pawn is weak, or this pawn can chase this knight, or should we break open the position? At some point, the games aren't decided by obvious blunders anymore. It's who can find these little details and take advantage of them and turn them into big problems for their opponents. And you were speculating about why black went to c8. I'm now speculating. You gave me an idea that maybe the reason why
hmm.
Kamryn chose rook f2 instead of rook c1, besides the
Oh, so
other
because she can keep
possibilities, is
that pawn pushing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Hey.
there you go. Maybe she still wants to do this. It doesn't have as much venom to it anymore
Right.
without queens,
Without
at
the
least
queen
on the
there.
board, or any other pieces on the
Yeah.
board. So I think if that's the case, it's a bit misguided because really, if you go f5, black doesn't need to do anything about it. They can probably just
That's a fair
ignore it.
point.
And apparently taking is very good. Why in the world is that? What? I don't understand. It looks like it should be okay. I'm worried she might go for something like this if she's playing too hard for a win. This would be what white would try to do. There's really no threat, and then black can come in and start making their own counter threats. Again, this whole plan. And the rook
Right.
is a little bit misplaced over here. Um, Wait a minute, we have some moves. Rook f1. Oh, she went back to f1. This happened, and rook c1. She's trying to trade the rooks. Okay, good.
Okay.
Whew.
Okay.
Yeah, was rook f1 okay?
So she found it after the fact.
Yeah, there was still rook c4 apparently, but yeah, she okay. So she did come up with rook c1 in a different way, where black never had the chance to blunder taking b2.
Ah.
So she wants to trade rooks. She's being very aggressive trying to do it. She has the right idea. Definitely, we need to trade rooks. So the good thing is she has the right plan. Black is going to have to trade rooks here, I think. Otherwise, white gets the
Yeah,
file.
if
I
she
mean, you
gets
can't move
in.
away. That's for sure. You can't move
No,
somewhere.
because the minute you're letting that rook get to the seventh, and that's just too lovely.
And they've traded. In fact, the best move for black was to try to dissuade the trade
Or to
from
go
happening.
back and to do the yeah, because
No,
then
this move.
you
Yeah, and actually, you don't want to take in this position because
right, because that's
um,
just where's that knight going?
well,
Yeah.
now there's all these pawns on the queen side for black, and
Yep.
yeah, it gets messy. Yeah. So okay.
Nick Bissell in the building.
Yep.
We're
The
talking about pawns, and Nick shows up. That's not lost on me, Nick. That's not lost on me. I want my pawns back. I haven't forgotten.
So Rook C1 was played and they traded.
Okay.
Good news for Kamryn. I don't think there's any danger of this bishop coming in. We just play knight e2 and that guards everything. What will be hard to do is make any progress here for either side. It's going to be hard to do anything. It's a little bit easier. I think I prefer white. Like you said, you preferred white in these sort of situations because the knight has maybe more possibilities in what it can do. I think that's true, but it's still very limited just because
Yes, there's
where do we even
no.
go? Like if I could choose
Yeah,
a spot for the night
I'm
right now,
looking
I
at
don't
this.
know where
Apart
I'd put it.
from attacking the bishop, which is futile, um, that's the thing that would worry me the most is the she can't. You correct me if I'm off on any of this. I don't believe that B pawn can move because if you do, the D pawn potentially. But I like where you were going with it because the knight
Well, we
going
always
to
can protect it.
E2 defends everything. Yeah,
The key here is to bring the king up to the center to
and the
do the
king out.
defensive
Yeah,
job. It can handle that on its own, and then
and then that knight has options,
to do something
whereas
with the
the bishop
knight.
doesn't. Yeah,
The bishop, yeah, I think the bishop will
the
have fewer
bishop's
options.
operating on one side of the board, and that's the like has nothing really. So yeah, you get that king up in there in the center, and then the knight, if the knight can get going, trying to figure out just a path for the knight to start the feast, but um I feel like it just has more options than that bishop.
Well,
It'll be interesting.
the thing is that Kamryn can now place the king on e3 or d3, something like that, and
Right.
then
It's gonna hang
probe.
out.
Use the knight. Maybe it goes to
Yeah.
the queen side for a minute, chases that bishop away. Maybe it goes all the way over to the king side and starts attacking some of those pawns. See if you can provoke some weaknesses, and it's definitely possible for there to be a breakthrough. I could imagine a situation where, let's say we rush our kings, both of us. Suddenly it's liking white. Why?
Young chess god, yes. Cameron's playing tomorrow as well.
Why in the world? I actually missed a detail here is that in this position, or in this position, we could play knight d3, and the bishop is trapped. Jeez.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the bishop's
How?
trapped. Well,
Oh,
where can
because
I?
you can
Because you
push
can't go
now. You
back
can
here. The
push that
king's.
B pawn.
Yeah, if you go here, it's this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a5 to
And you
protect
can't
it
go
doesn't work
back.
because a3.
Yeah.
And if you go bishop d2, the king just attacks it. Oh, this is a
That's
trap. This is very dangerous for black. King f2 is the move, and king e7 would lose because of knight d3.
oh. Come on, Cameron. It looks like she did something.
Well, king f2 would be very natural. She went king f1.
Yeah.
King e8. Ah, he didn't fall for the trap. I think it still would have
He's
been
listening,
if
man. He's
here.
listening. He's like,
Knight
no, no,
d3
no.
wins the bishop. Oh my goodness, what a trap that would have been. Okay, he spotted it. Darn. King e8.
Yeah.
Um,
That dude's been looking at us the whole time. He's like, no, no, I know what you all are thinking. And no.
what I was gonna say before I noticed the trap is white
Yeah.
couldn't simply bring the king to d3, and let's just say black brings their king this way, right? There's really nothing that black king is going to be able to do over here. Um, Now I'm forgetting what I actually was going to say, but oh yeah, I think that the knight can start a journey over here.
Yep. Start
Maybe black gets a little bit
flipping.
carried
Yeah.
away with the king moves, and before you know it, white can break through on the king side with just the pawns. Just the pawns alone can break through the pawns. So you could even imagine a situation where the knight and the bishop get traded and white wins.
Yeah. Just on the strength of, yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this theoretical position, Omar. But let's just do some moves here for black. These 4 pawns versus these 4 pawns is not a blockade at all.
What?
Yeah.
I do not know this.
Uh huh.
I have had this position and gone, well, that's not going anywhere.
Oh no, it's going somewhere.
How do you now you're saying just from a pawn perspective, not because we have a bishop and a knight on the
Yeah,
board.
forget
Like,
everything else. Just those highlighted
okay,
pawns. You don't need a king to help. You don't need a knight or bishop to help. It's just the pawns by themselves can get through. So let's just do a move for black.
yeah,
Let's see here. Suddenly, see the bar going up,
yeah, the bars, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
he's
black.
liking
This
it.
is this is a scenario if black gets too carried away on the king side trying to make something happen. Now we go f5. If you take, we take, and we can make a pass pawn.
Wow.
We can also play f6, and after this pawn moves, we take, and we go through.
There we go. Got you.
Now, in this position, the bishop can get back in time to stop. So this hinges on us being able to trade the knight for the bishop.
Got you.
That'll have to happen before we do this, but I'm focusing just for now on the queen side pawn, the king side pawns only. If you go here and black ignores, like let's just say they move.
The bar. Good Lord.
Yeah, well, in this position, we can take and then go here.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is the advantage of the knight over the bishop is that the bishop can't come back and defend any of these pawns. So if the king gets too far away, it becomes possible for Kamryn to do something on the king side. This is the point I'm trying to
Gotcha.
make. That wasn't even really what I wanted to show, though. Let's say black just goes back and you want to break through with the pawns. Now the move is g5. And so, one way or
And the
another,
bar likes that less. Like, oh, that's
well, okay, the problem is we have to ignore this bishop. Ignore the bishop, please.
okay.
If it's just the king side,
It's just those, yeah.
let's say black takes, we go here, and our pawn squeaks through.
How about that?
Yep. And if they take the other way, we go here. We're threatening to take, so they take first, but we
Yeah.
squeak through.
And then you squeeze through.
Yeah. So 4 versus 4, if the king and the bishop are out of play, we can do something like this. It's what Kamryn should do. She should get her pawns up here, advance as much as she can. Maybe even bring the knight to help. You can imagine if the knight suddenly is also helping, it's even easier, maybe.
Yeah.
And there are breakthroughs for white. I don't see any breakthroughs for black on the other side of the board. There's just not. With the king on d3, you stop any king invasion. There's just no way through. I don't know what else to say about it. If you
Yeah.
ever get a pawn to a3, I just play b3. If you ever get a pawn to b3, I can probably just play a3. That side is going to get blocked. So I'm not sure how far black intends to go. He's gone king d7, knight d3, and oh, that was where I wanted the king, but okay.
Okay, he's coming back.
But this is under control for Kamryn. Very under control. I don't know if it's winning because I actually didn't really like driving the bishop to e7. It makes it harder to sort of advance these pawns the way I
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah, it sort of forced him into making the move he may not have made. I don't know that he was going to walk that king that far though.
I don't know either, but he was already on the way. He'd already gone like this. So
Yeah.
might still do it. And then I could see this, and try to bring in the knight, put some pressure on e6. Something like that could easily happen. So black can't really afford to get carried away. It's probably a very easy draw if black just starts shuffling the bishop, actually. I don't see what white can do if black just decides to sit tight in this position. The king is nicely centralized. The bishop guards both sides. There's not much progress to be made.
Question
So,
for you.
yep.
Oh, good. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that Kamryn winning this is possible, but she's going to need a little help from her opponent. He has to go a little bit astray and maybe underestimate her chances here for this to become a win. Most likely, we're
Can
looking at a draw.
can we force it by moving the king towards the A and B pawns, and not to get them because I don't think there's anything on that side of the board, but more to drag the king
Yeah,
to make the idea that you talked about on the other side uh viable.
right. We've seen Cameron make some threats with her pieces where her opponent is lured into making like these extra pawn moves or weaknesses. So yeah, it's possible we start going this way and maybe we get Black's king to follow because that breakthrough on the king side, remember, did not rely on the like king. So we can bring the king this way, make it look like we're
Right.
trying to do something. There's some holes. Maybe the king could sneak in, right? It's not impossible
Yeah.
to imagine.
Get him thinking about it.
At least, yeah. And then maybe we drag the king a little further away. Maybe he decides to come even further in. And then
Yep.
we then then
Yeah,
we
to
might be
get
in
opposition.
business.
And now you're coming. Yeah.
I don't think it hurts to try, but if black does no moves, I think Cameron might be just shuffling around for the next 50 moves.
Fair point.
Well, we could go really slowly, play g3, h4, h5, g4, something like this, and basically get that same setup that I was talking about earlier. And
So
you have
set it up
time to do it.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can start to drag the king. Because if you don't do anything, she will get those pawns.
Hmm.
I like that plan.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, if you don't have anything concrete right away, you have a space advantage somewhere, I build up that space advantage. Advance the pawns as far as possible. In an endgame, if it ever comes down to being a race, your pawns will be closer and it's an advantage to you.
Got you.
King d2.
Okay. Okay. She might be doing the idea.
By the way, she's down almost a half an hour on the clock at this point.
Cameron uses her time and
Mm-hmm.
every morsel of it. I'm not mad about that.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah.
I've been somewhat critical of her opponents that have been moving too quickly. Black in this game has been moving too quickly, by the way.
We literally say that every game for opponents.
And all of her
Um,
opponents have made critical errors at certain moments. This opponent, Cesar, has didn't make it like a really serious error, but he had an advantage built up despite having moved fast. He made a quick decision um, when he needed to be a little bit more accurate and allowed Cameron to equalize. King
yeah, she's
c6.
not one man that you can't give her advantages because
Well,
she will
well,
find moves.
well, we saw what happened in the last game when Cameron
Yeah,
was
man. That was
down a queen. She found she found
yeah.
resources. Yeah.
I got to tell again, there not all losses are created equal. Um, I know she didn't win that game, but she didn't lose it. If you get what I mean, her fight in that alone in that game, like that's one I'd be very
Mhm.
proud of that game.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones that there's certain games I call like you become a chess player on certain games, and they're not always wins. It's
Mhm.
a to this day probably my favorite game uh in that moment was a draw that I had in a Lee Chess 45-45 game where I was able to get the mating or I should say the king and after being down and managed to get the rooks and get the king to perpetual and
Mhm.
was literally about to like just give up in that game and should have lost that game. Should have lost it and found a way.
Yeah.
Those are the games where you're like, okay, wait a minute, maybe I can.
Well,
And that
look
was one
at
of those games, even
yeah,
though if she had
and
drawn that game, man, that's one for the ages. If she had found
yeah,
Queen H7, that's a draw for the ages there.
right. Yeah, and it shows how important it is to be resilient and to keep fighting until there's absolutely zero resources left in the position. Um, None of Black's moves here are very scary. There's absolutely no breakthrough on the side of the board, but I think she needs to make progress on the king side before it's too late. If things do get totally clamped down on the queen side, then it'll be, black can refocus to the other side of the board also, and there's not going to be a breakthrough anymore. This might just very quickly be a situation where neither side can really do anything. But
Gotcha.
I wanted to add to what you were
Yeah.
saying because, yeah, I mean, it's a really good sign. She can be proud of the way that she fought back in that game. The calculation mistake she made was relatively simple, but those are going to happen, and you sort of have to shrug it off and then fight your way back, which she did. And a lot of people would have just collapsed too easily in that position. So it's a good sign for her and for her chess future that she's able to fight back from. I mean, it was a pretty dire situation with her opponent had an extra knight, and
Yeah.
somehow she found a way. I mean, she found resources that I didn't think would exist in the position, so it was impressive. Yeah. So
Yeah, he
hopefully
found
she
he
can see that silver lining and move on from that game.
he made that game very, very complicated for himself. Like the
Yeah, right. A little bit
I,
more
I
than necessary.
yeah, I almost feel bad for him. Like, oh, dude, you don't want to be in a position where I mean, I'm just thinking about him when she queens,
Mm.
and he's thinking, I had this thing, and now I could potentially lose or draw a game that I was a piece up.
Yeah, I wonder if he saw that Queen H7 move in that position, the final position.
Mm.
'Cause if he did, I
I
would have
think
been
the
pretty
only thing,
nervous.
yeah, I think the only reason why she didn't find it was because of time.
Yeah,
In
probably.
fact, she even said to us after she was like, I thought about playing that. And I think had she had more time to consider it, she would have. And I'll be honest with you, and I think no, you know what? Let me put respect back on that man's name. Um, the
Yeah, I gotcha.
I keep disrespecting him. He, to his credit, found defensive moves that night move going back, even though he played it really fast, it defended everything. He had
Oh, the
moves with his
91, yeah.
queen
Hmm.
that were like you were like, who in the world plays this? There were some.
Hmm.
He was really savvy with his moves and his defensive play, finding things that I wouldn't have never considered. So I think he could have found he would have been disappointed because I think if she finds that she finds a draw because she was like I was gonna I like how she put it. She goes I was gonna check him into oblivion. Um,
Yeah,
and
basically,
so
yeah.
yeah, it's I think time was the only thing that got her
Yeah.
in that. But I'll take that loss over losing with an hour or 14 on the clock or whatever it is because she literally down to 0 seconds. I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'll take that all day. Yeah, well said. Okay.
It's educational for me. I need to be more like that because I will lose with more time than I started with.
I think the one thing Cameron needs to be careful about is not making pawn moves on the queen side right now. Back to the position at hand. Like, for example, if she tries something like a3, this might be okay. But if she then plays b4, for example, it can get blocked up and not in her favor because this bishop has a target. And while black can't ever really win this pawn, I don't want my king or my knight stuck defending it.
Yeah.
If I'm white, I would much rather do something like maybe b3 is a move here, actually. b3 would be okay. This pawn move I'm okay with because if black marches down and let's say we just do some move, and here we just step to the side, there's no way for black to get through.
Yeah.
a4 they
Yeah.
can
That's
take or they can go
jammed
here.
up
We're not
forever.
worried
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, this is probably the setup that she wants. Nobody gets through over here ever. The only thing is that then the Black King will probably head back in this direction, and I don't think, with the King and the Bishop over on the King's side, I doubt there's a way for her to really break through. So, if she's going to try to win this game, it needs to be by making progress on the King's side right now, and hoping that Black gets into some trouble before the King comes back. It would only take one or two weakening pawn moves to create like a big problem for black on the king side. Although now I feel like I have to point out an example, but um, hmm. Yeah, what exactly could black do that would be a problem? Anything that would let the knight in to start threatening things could be an issue.
Let me ask you this.
Hmm.
Is there any world where you would play King B3?
Maybe.
Do you see my idea?
Well, I think you want to come in like this.
Yeah. Or even no, I just want to come there and then see what he does.
Well, I mean, you can play it. I don't think there's any drawback, but you're not going to make any progress unless the king is like back on g8.
Again, I'm still trying to drag him. I still want because I want to do your other idea.
Yeah, king here. Let's say this move,
I was hoping the king would come there for opposition,
cinching
but
up a
maybe he
little
doesn't.
bit. Maybe a4 is a nice idea here.
Oh, that's interesting.
The point is that let's say black does think that the queen side is now fully blocked up and brings the king, and maybe at some point our king comes over here. We look like we're doing something on the king side, and suddenly we go knight c1, knight b3, and take this pawn. It's a little bit far
That's
fetched,
that's
but
that's very
because we
savvy.
could do all of that, and the bishop could protect it in one move. But you know, it's something. I don't think that Kamryn even really needs to be that careful. Oh, she played the move I really didn't want to do.
Which
She
one is
played
this? What did she do?
b4.
Oh, she went there. Ooh,
It's not
no.
bad. It's not a blunder, but um,
Well, I don't hate trading those pieces
yeah, but
off.
black doesn't have to trade. They could play something like a4
Uh,
and leave. Oh, you know what? Actually,
then you just push that pawn, right? You
you
just
do
kind of come
this,
up.
and the pawn is safe. Ah, okay. So she could do this. Maybe I take it back. B4 is a nice move. You know what it was? It was the
Hmm.
line. I was looking at a line where a3 happened first, and then so this is a little bit different. Black did something like this, and after here, this trade, I didn't like that the pawn always has to be guarded
Yeah, I
by a
don't love
knight or
that.
king, right? But it's much
Yeah.
different what she did playing b4 here. Okay, this actually is an interesting move because I'm not sure what black's best response is. If a4 probably is fine, that's what he played.
Okay.
I
And
think we just
then
go a3 and if we can get our knight to c3,
yeah, you
especially if
get
this
that.
pawn goes here, we're attacking both these pawns, and the only piece that can protect this is the king, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine a scenario where okay, well, let's get our knight to c3, take some moves. Let's do this. Um, I don't think there's anything black can really even do, but let's just go back for now. Oh, we have to be careful. Oh, we have to be so careful. There's this.
Ooh.
Oh, that's nasty. That's really, really nasty. Because if we move the knight, they promote.
They promote.
If we bring the king,
They take.
they go here. No, they don't
Oh
take. They
no.
go here.
Oh
And you can't. Your knight's in the
no.
way. Your knight's in the way.
Can't.
Okay.
Oh.
So there's actually some danger to this. This position
Okay.
suddenly she's losing if this happens. Wow. Okay. I got a little bit careless there. Hmm. There's bishop sacrifices we have to look out for. Then this complicates things quite a bit. So we have to go like
The
king
king has.
c2. So the king's close enough. Bring the knight to c3. I mean, once the knight gets to c3, there's no sacrifice anymore. Ah, but it's so dangerous. The other thing I could imagine is she thinks we got a total blockade, move the king over,
And
bring
so
the
yeah.
knight over, but then suddenly
And
bishop takes and pass pawn.
the fact that he played that pass pawn to begin with tells me that he's already seen it.
King
Okay.
b5. No, king b5. Um, just a3.
Yeah, you have to play that now.
I think we just play a3.
Yeah.
And
But it's your same scenario, Ian.
what? Yeah, getting the knight to c3. It's
Yeah.
actually a little bit trickier now because um, we can't move the king down and then move the knight because the king comes in. But we have the luxury of taking our time. So we can move the knight this way first, leave the king on c3 for now. And then we can go, where do we have to be? We can go knight c1, knight e2, king here, and then knight c3. We have to do a little dance with the knight because we need to leave the king on c3 for now, both to stop this, and if there's ever a sacrifice on before, the king can stop this pawn if it becomes a runner.
Question: Is there
Wow. So this has happened, a3.
is the she would have to? I was wondering if there's a scenario here where you sacrifice that bishop to create that passer.
Yes.
The very thing that you, yeah, that's what I'm like.
If she
To me, if I'm
plays
black,
king
that's,
d3 in this position,
can you
black
not
does
just
something
do
with
it
king
now?
d3. Takes.
Can't,
And after
oh,
takes
because the
is.
king, why does the king have to be away? Couldn't you just,
Oh, wait, this doesn't work? Well, yeah, we can look at that in a second.
okay.
Wait, why? Oh, it's a little trickier with the king on b5 because we can go knight d1. And after this, there's a fork. Okay.
Ah, okay.
But black can still fight and do something like this. Oh, no, what am I saying? Black can actually just take this pawn.
You say the pawn, yeah.
Ugh, yeah, this is dicey. You got to come after this pawn, but black can go now this way. Oh, man. Somehow Kamryn's games always explode. When you think they're going to be quiet, maneuvering, not much going on for a really long time, it gets extremely complicated.
Yeah.
Black can't take in this position to answer your question because after we take here, we just move the knight away somewhere. And we're going to be in plenty of time to stop it with the king.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's when the king gets to d3 that it's an issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
We have a3 on the board and black is thinking. Um, yeah, the good news for white is that there's not really a good move here for black. There's nothing. Not that there's not a good move. There's just not something black can do to really put pressure on white's position. I don't think.
What about pushing f6?
Yeah, f6. Well, we might be able to take it, but I think we can also just ignore easily enough. Maybe just
Oh,
g3.
yeah,
Maybe
fair.
we
She's
start
got
to
enough
maneuver our
there. She's
knight.
got enough there. Yeah.
Because remember, I wanna bring the knight to c3. If we get the knight to c3, we win a pawn. Very importantly.
Okay.
So I would go knight here. I should say black just blocks everything up. I meant to show this, so my root again. Oh yeah, knight c1 because I want to get to where the king is. Let's say black just shuffles. Knight e2, keep shuffling. Now here, and in this position, black probably has to play king c6. King c6, so that way after knight here they can play b5 and save their pawn. But the problem that black has is this king must stay guarding this pawn as long as the knight is here. Yes, and there's no sacrifice in a position like this because the knight is stopping the pawn from advancing.
Gotcha. Yep. And the
King
bar
can't
loves
get
that
into
for
hell.
white.
This is,
Yeah.
I think, perhaps white's ideal construction in this position. We get the weakness here. Black, by the way, because they have a bishop, does not have a similar weakness somewhere else that they can attack of ours. You know what? Maybe that's not 100% true. They can go here and here.
Hmm.
Yeah, actually, okay, fine. I guess they do.
He
Yeah.
sounds so disappointed. Like, fine, fine, they have it.
Yeah, they can do this. But what I really wanted to do is to be able to bring my king freely, and start to do something on the king side with advancing these pawns. Try to break through using the king. Maybe the king makes some inroads, who knows? And have a situation where black cannot match that because their king is tied to the pawn. Another possibility is the knight starts to journey over to create some threats. You never know.
All right.
And when the king tries to answer that, the knight zips back to the other side all of a sudden and gets this pawn. Once black gets too far away, maybe the knight actually just returns to the queen side and gets that b5 pawn.
Yeah, we start creating some other things on the other side. They've done some moves. What did they do?
g5 happened. G5.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I think the idea is that if white takes,
Yep.
they would like to play bishop c1 and try to just win this pawn.
He's doing the thought that I had, but just doing it a different way. I was trying to get the bishop some other options.
Yeah. So how does Kamryn react to this move? Because it's sort of a serious idea. For example, you can't just keep going in with your knight. Now you cannot save this.
Mm.
You can go back, but I'm worried that she might get stuck. Like now you can't move the king and you can't move the knight because you don't want to allow this. You know what's funny? Actually, you can move your knight. For example, if this happens, you can even let them take the pawn. You can save it with knight c2, but you could even let them take, I believe, and go knight. Oh, you don't have knight c2. Never mind. I thought we had knight c2 because the bishop looks trapped. No, what was my idea here? No, knight d3 was the idea, right? This is the move that I
Gotcha.
meant to say. Knight d3, it guards all the squares for the bishop. And even though black has an extra pawn, the bishop is badly
You
misplaced.
can't get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it can't move. We can't win it, but all of these pieces are stuck and not able to move. Is that right?
Yep. Looks that way.
Well, okay, the black king can move, but as soon as it moves, then our king can move, and then when they go back, we can go back. So it's like a mutual zugzwang. It's not a situation where one side is going to win. It's the situation where um, basically nobody can win if you play the best moves. We have to just go back and forth at some point. The bishop can actually get trapped if it gets to a3. I don't think we really want to allow this as a possibility. So what do we play? If we play
Do you push? Yeah, let's say you just push D3
g3,
here.
maybe takes, the bishop can still get in. Although not really, because we just put our knight on d3 and it guards all of the squares.
Mm.
But the thing is, we sort of start to run out of moves.
Yeah, I'm like everything sort of now. There's no reason to worry about what was going on the other side.
We can't really move the king ever because black's king gets in. This is an annoying threat, and having our knight on d3 is not ideal because we'd like to be able to shuffle our king back and forth if necessary. So maybe knight d3 is not the optimal move. Maybe knight d1. Bishop check, I'm not so scared of. We just go here. Yeah, I think even if black's bishop does invade behind our lines, it's not super dangerous.
Okay.
But that's what he's trying to do. She played knight d3. Yeah, it's good. What happens if takes? Knight takes bishop g5. We could get a situation that's just a draw. For example, if white plays g3,
Mm-hmm.
takes, these pawns are going to meet in the middle. White can shuffle, but so can black. and that would be just a draw. If black tries too hard to win and comes around this way, we play b5,
And
and
then
our
yeah,
king comes to take this
it
pawn, we
comes in
win.
and takes. Yeah.
So if the king tries to run, but then maybe they throw in b5 first, then our king is free to come over here as well. So yeah, there's not going to be, if the knight and bishop trade, it's almost a guaranteed draw. h5. Okay, black is playing a little bit with fire here, I feel like.
Mm.
Because I was thinking that we wanted to move pawns over there and try to make trades happen, create some weakness that maybe our king can exploit or maybe our knight.
Yeah.
And but black is the one trying for something. He could overpress here and really pay the price. I don't know how exactly, but it could happen. Hmm. Oh, Kamryn moved. She played g3. Okay.
Okay.
These positions might look kind of simple, but they really aren't. There's oftentimes little tricks. You have to be careful. So I she has plenty of time. I don't want her to rush and miss some small detail. Like for example, if the knight goes to the king side and gets too far away, and black's bishop does get in after this a3 pawn, it could be a disaster. So we have to watch out for that. But g3 looks like a nice response. Yeah. If black plays h4,
That's what I was going to ask you next.
yeah, I'm debating whether we take or we push. Either way seems quite possible. Also, we could maybe just ignore. Um, I kind of like pushing just because this pawn becomes a potential target for us.
Mm.
It's protected right now, so it's really hard to get it. But something like this, bishop g5, knight here. I think we go king here and knight c3, and we untangle everything.
Yeah, him pushing those pawns. I'm looking at it now. It's I don't really see how it's helping him.
Right. Oh, g4.
Oh, and he went down another one.
Oh man, it's so risky for him to be putting pawns on light squares right now. In fact, now he has no counterplay on the queen side, on the king side at all. The bishop can't get in. Ah, yes. So he just blocked it up. That favors the knight, by the way. That seriously
Mm.
favors the knight. Ooh, there's like if this bishop were just somewhere else, anywhere else, f5 is a possibility for Kamryn. I don't think it works here, but I just want to go here and attack all these pawns.
Oh,
Things can start to collapse if black has a ton of weaknesses all of a sudden. We sacrifice that f pawn, but we're going to win something back. The
right.
only issue is that
Yeah.
black can
We-
go here.
and then yep. He still has his way in.
Yeah, right. But especially putting the pawns on light squares is weak is risky because if we get our knight like I said, if we get our knight to f4, we're just going to win this pawn. There is one idea for black. Let's just say we do our plan to get king here and the knight to c3. How do we do that now? Knight here. I was looking at h4,
Yep.
and let's just say we ignore that for now. We
Yep.
go here. Takes, takes. We have to watch out for bishop h4,
Ah.
but not in
Why
this
is it like
position.
that for white so
Not
much?
in this position, apparently.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, like except for
I
white. I
see what
mean,
you were
my
saying,
idea was to go
but
like
that's
this.
coming. But I guess the king is in time, isn't he?
The king isn't. Actually, the king might not be in time if black's king gets in, but the knight is in time.
Got you.
Yeah, this is the idea though that Kamryn has to watch out for. It might look blocked, but there's some risk still in the position for her. Um, Wait, but there's something here that's winning for black, and I'm wondering if it's taking this. Could it be?
Yeah, because the king moved. That's what you were talking about before.
No, but it can't be this, right? It looks dangerous, but we're gonna take this and boom.
And then go. Yeah. Okay.
So what is? I need to turn this on and see. King d3 is losing because of h takes g3, and then and then bishop takes b4. Yes. Okay.
Ah.
Wow, black is winning this position quite simply because the two connected pawns with the king helping them. It's hard for the knight to stop him, and the king can't really come closer. Not without going king c2 and allowing this.
Mm.
Okay, there's real danger here for there's real danger here for white actually. There's a sacrifice on b4. There's some breakthroughs on the other side. She's not out of the woods yet. She needs to play some accurate moves. g4 happened. She played knight f2. Okay. As long as she leaves her king on c3, there's
Then we're
nothing to
good.
worry about. Yeah. Knight f2, she might be doing this knight d1, knight c3 idea that I had to win this pawn. She may also be considering h3 just to trade. And
Oh, I like that.
yeah, me too. That would sort of nullify black's ideas of breaking through and getting a pass pawn on the
Yeah.
g file. Right, h3 might be quite nice. Say the king goes back, h3 takes. And if this move, we can probably take it, but also just g4.
Just go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
By the way, I missed this move, which is interesting. It's really playing with fire. You see studies like this where we offer both pawns, and either one you take, you get into trouble. If this we lose because this pawn again, we see how the passed pawn
right.
defeats a knight very easily. Okay, maybe I should take back the very easily part because there is knight h3. I believe the point is that it's not push right away; it's bishop here. There's pawn g2 followed by bishop f2. Nice idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's all these little tricks. But our king gets back in time. Wow, look at this. I mean, if we bring the king, then black sneaks back in this way on the other side.
Man.
If we can't bring our king, we have to go. Well, we can do something over here maybe, but then bishop f2. They sack the bishop to get a queen.
Wow.
Jeez.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Okay. So there's still even some trickiness to this whole thing. She has to be very careful and take her time. Okay. So black is just waiting. That's a good sign. Black is just waiting. By the way, Kamryn could play h4.
Ampersand
H3 is a bit
and use
risky. En
take.
passant
I
can
got
happen,
you.
but this
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of. This is fine.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't even know that he does it, to be honest.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. It's hard to get the knight to attack this pawn. I mean, there is this f5 move pawn break. It's the only pawn break for white in the position. Just to be able to get the knight into f4, if we can get the knight there, we start to hit this weakness. So bishop d8. Now Kamryn should. I like knight d1. No, sorry, h4 first. Because
Okay.
We don't want black going h4 on us at some point, and we're
Right.
not prepared for it. So she should play h4 first. Black will either take or not, but either way, then we'll have time for king d3, knight d1, knight c3. Maybe we provoke b5 from black. Well, they'll have to do that. So let's actually maybe put that on the board. Let's just say black shuffles and does nothing. Okay, now we're threatening knight c3 and just taking the pawn, so the king finally will have to back up. This is what I've been trying to do this whole time. um, we go knight here just to provoke b5. And the nice thing about this, we never have to worry about a king invasion again.
Ah, I like that. Yeah.
And the king is tied to the pawn. There's also never a bishop sacrifice. As long as our knight is here, there's no bishop sacrifice allowing this pawn to run. And
But the concern I have though is that there's no way to make progress.
yes, that is that is a valid concern. There's only
Um,
one way, and
yeah.
I think it's to play f5. It takes and king e3. King e3 apparently. Oh no, king e3 is good. Okay. Oof. Okay, I was for a second I thought it was gonna say we're losing, but somehow, but no, it's okay. We just go here, and try to take this.
Gotcha.
And why exactly is this not winning? Because it actually looks quite nice. Why are we not winning here, Omar?
Uh, that is
Okay,
okay. Comes there.
suddenly we are
Yeah.
winning if we go knight e2 and knight f4 and start taking stuff.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
understand why any of this is
no, maybe
bad.
not. The computer's changing its mind. I want to go here.
Yeah. I don't understand why is this bad?
There's sneaky stuff. f6. We're pinned, right?
Uh,
So we take d4, and black is winning. Look at this. King gets in.
yeah.
Um, I've yet to really find a clear variation where white wins. Makes me kind of nervous because if Kamryn pushes too hard and she's not very careful, this is like the prime situation for white to overpress and lose. Because there's tons of tricks
Gotcha.
where black either gets a pass pawn, or the bishop sacrifices to get a pass pawn, or the king invades, and these pass pawns are dominating the knight. Things open up like this. I have a feeling unless they agree to they just shuffle back and forth right now, somebody might try to play for a win and sort of overpress their luck. That's
I think she just pushed H3.
Oh, do we have more moves?
Yeah, she just made one.
H3. I hope she calculated H4. Oh, this
Hmm.
is the move where you lose if you take on G4 and this pawn comes in like this. The good news is that, oh, and also if you take on H4, you're also losing because of this. So you can't take either pawn with a pawn. You have to play knight takes G4. This is very findable.
I think that's what she
Yeah.
just did.
H3, no, black took. Okay, so thank God.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Oh, and then she took.
could have made things really dicey. She took, yeah. Okay, this makes
Okay.
sense. All right, fine. This is not dangerous. We looked at this position actually already. Bishop
Yeah,
e7.
she just goes back, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Draw.
Oh, they agreed to a draw.
Yeah. They
Oh,
literally
good.
shook hands.
Okay, good. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a draw. There was some trickiness coming up, perhaps, but that's the correct result for this game, I think.
I feel better now.
Yeah, a draw is a good result for Kamryn. Again, her opponent is much higher rated than her, and it's nice to sort of stop the bleeding right after a loss. Just get a draw, pretty solid game from start to finish
Yeah,
for her, and yeah, it was
I feel
she.
better. The streak is broken.
There you go, Omar. She did not
Yeah,
lose. You were
yeah. She did not
commentating.
lose.
She did
Yeah,
not lose. You
she
were
did
not her
not
bad luck
lose.
charm.
Yes,
you
that one
can
was for me.
you can relax now.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, it really is me,
No. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We will very likely get to talk to Kamryn in just a little bit. So stick with us for a few more minutes. While she gets packed up and relocated, then we'll talk to her about the game,
Hey,
get
and
her
Quick Draw
thoughts.
over there is still playing. She was
That's right,
she's
yeah.
done it in 10 minutes, and that just from what we're looking at, that looks they don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got
Um,
that lean back, lean forward. I'm gonna be here for a while. I'm comfortable in my seat. Look, when you start looking over at the other board, like, oh man, they're done. Oh.
yep. Okay, so solid game. Very nice. And a draw. There were definitely traps that had me getting a little bit nervous in this position because there were all sorts of little details that had to be
You were
accounted
finding
for.
things, man, that it's just like, oh man.
I was finding ideas for black,
Yeah.
and I wasn't finding a lot of ideas for white. And but Kamryn handled it nicely, very solidly, and yeah, it's a weird opening.
Let me ask you this, Ian, just based on what you were able to find,
Hmm.
this, and I would have never guessed this. Uh, my feeling was that white was better because white had the knight and everything was locked up. But from what you showed me here, uh, I would have never, but now I'll never unsee it. Just how powerful a pass pawn is, even versus a knight, and seeing the different things and all the different. Like you've told me that some time ago, um, when we were looking at some of my games and when my games first started making it to end games, which was relatively new for me, because I think my big thing was, well, my games never get that far. Why should I study that? And then they started getting that far, and you were like, you play too fast in the end game, and I'm like, what do you mean? There's less to calculate, and you're like, actually, no, there's way more to calculate. And in this game here is, if ever there was an example of that, this would be that. And I'm just remembering some of the things that you taught me relative to that when we would look at some of the positions and just literally just sitting here, we looked at 100 variations and
Yeah, you're not
all
kidding.
different things that were like, and again, this is I'm sitting here looking at this with the benefit of you and the bar.
Yeah, look at all the variations we looked at over on the right. You'll see we had,
Wow.
starting from the beginning of the
Oh,
game, all these variations is what we
oh
looked at.
wow.
Look at this. This is just for
Good
one move.
Lord.
Yeah, all of this.
Wow.
That's the analysis we just went through, Omar. And we could have done a lot more towards the end too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow.
yeah.
That is very, very telling. Gracious.
Yeah. So you're not kidding. I mean, Um, I think that's the number one reason that mistakes happen and otherwise even um, endings is that people
Yeah.
underestimate how tricky they can be. I mean, even king and two pawns versus king and pawn can be extremely complicated.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
I'm glad she agreed to a draw here. I felt that there was some danger. So there's ways for black to get tricky. Somehow the knight was never quite better than the bishop. And
Yeah,
I think it was all because of, before in hindsight, maybe created some problems where the bishop could sacrifice or the king could invade. That really, we shouldn't have had to deal with that earlier. So maybe moving these pawns was a little bit unnecessary.
yeah. To your point from before, like nothing was happening on that side of the board.
Yeah. Just let
I
black come
wanted
to
to,
you and then block it up at the last
yeah,
second.
I
Mm.
wanted to drag the king and then push, but Black ended up doing the pushing on that side. That Black got aggressive. To his credit, I almost wonder, did he agree to a draw too soon because of just the ideas? But again, he doesn't have the benefit of you and a bar
Hmm.
to know probably just how he may not realize this until he analyzes the game for himself.
Yeah.
This is also the type of thing, though. I'm thinking that if I'm the higher rated player in this situation and you get away with a draw in this complicated end game, you take it. You go back to your room, you go sleep. You play again
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that too.
Well, yeah, you have a point because Kamryn also just had a very long game prior
Yeah,
to this. So getting a quick draw and being able to get back and get some rest is important.
yeah, that's worth it. Particularly like to your point, after the to walk away after round, what round was this?
5.
Five. Yeah, so walk around away after round five and to be 2.5.
Yep.
That's I'll take that against all higher rated opponents. I'll,
Yep.
I'll take that. I'll
Yeah,
take that result
absolutely.
every time. Yeah. Where's she taking us?
She's taking us somewhere. Here we go.
Okay. Looks like we got a little Skittles room. I tell you, man, every hotel is the same.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, every single like the chair the same, the tables with a little drape cloth,
Yep.
the carpet, they're all the same.
Hi guys.
Hi, Kamryn.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. I don't know if that actually was a draw the whole time, but I'm kind of happy with it, honestly.
we were
Good,
just talking
good.
about that. Yeah, we were saying we're very happy to like that got complicated. Like Ian was doing variations that like are a mile long, like just different
Yeah.
like on one move, towards the end. So yeah, that's a again, just kudos to you, fighting spirit, and to get a draw after that last game. Nicely done.
Yeah, I was honestly just like, like I could try and play on a little bit like after you offered the draw, but it's like I might as well take the time and get some rest after that first loss this morning. So yeah, I'm
It's
pretty happy with that
it's like
result.
exactly what I said word for word just like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
There were some interesting moments in the game. I guess we could go through a little bit and take a look. Um,
Yeah.
the opening, you had sort of a tough position after. Let's see. They like transposed into a French, but then all the pieces traded off.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah.
Uh, I realized I was like playing the white side of the French, which I normally am not doing.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to play like h3 at some point to get that bishop out of dodge in case he played knight h5.
I don't think
Um,
so. I think you had a lot of moves in this position, including what you did, but um, Bishop E5 was an interesting move that I think the computer suggested this move.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, because if they trade, you just go here, you gain a tempo on the knight, and then maybe even just play
Oh,
F4 or something like this, and
yeah, and then you
kind
just
of a
have a
nice
strong knight.
position.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
What if they play like f6 after I put the bishop on e5?
Well, maybe then I don't know exactly. Maybe you've provoked some weird weaknesses on the light squares, I suppose.
Okay,
Um,
it's worth looking at, I guess.
I guess you probably can't get away with something crazy like knight g5, although
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
it's half tempting.
Yeah, they probably just
Yes, you
take
can.
uh
Well, they can't do this, first of all, when they're queen.
oh,
That would be
that I didn't
brutal.
see.
Yeah. So they're taking
Um
the bishops out of the question. They'd have to take the knight if they're going to take anything. I
oh
guess.
yeah, and then the bishop just chills and then kind of weakens their king
No,
side.
this they're in trouble because g6 we take it. I believe.
Oh
Mate
yeah, that's a wrap.
e4. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, dang.
That is a wrap.
Yeah.
How exactly is it
It'll
a
be an
wrap?
interesting line to look at.
It's this
Yeah. It's like how do you want to
somewhere.
finish them?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh no, I messed up. Sorry. It should probably be this way is better. It's mate in one. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we didn't really look at this, but yeah, it's interesting. I guess after knight g5, maybe they can do something else and not take anything. You know, like maybe they just defend their knight. As weird as it looks. No.
You're still on that queen though, aren't you?
I don't know. I don't know. Oh, we're winning the queen. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. This is a threat.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And
So
we're
what's the
threatening
best
the knight.
move?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Uh
Knight takes e5. Okay.
oh my god.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is findable if you realize that nothing else works. But
Knight takes and then do you take with the pawn and then
just no. Then you
knight.
play you play g6 and you can't take here because the bishop protects. That's the point.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Okay. It's a mess. It's a mess. Yeah. But I thought what you did was fine. Although here, the one thing you needed to do, which seems very counterintuitive, this whole time you just needed to take on c5.
Okay, I considered that, but I thought giving him, I guess it's not really a passed pawn, but that central pawn seems really strong and annoying. And mine is like way up and kind of weak. Like I'd have to play like f4 to defend that pawn, and then if I want to castle kingside, aren't I just like really weak?
Well, I think it's maybe not as bad as that. I don't know that it's so easy for black to gang up on this pawn without any knights.
Oh.
And
There's a similar idea, I guess, in the French. Like when I played the French from the black side.
play like queen e2 and guard it this way.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
this is like what happened in your first round game or your second round game.
Yeah, they
Like-
just get that pawn that just like can't be taken out unless you play like f6 or something.
Right. And you can play c3 and you can castle here, maybe move your king
Yeah.
and play f4. But the reason why I think it's so good to do that in this particular variation is because otherwise black might eventually take you and you have this weakness on d4 that could have been an issue if he had played a little bit more accurately. So
Yeah, there was like some like queen, what was it? Queen a4 or something at some point
yes,
that I think
yeah,
he
there was.
missed.
By the way, I don't know about this move. This was where you sort of started to get into trouble. But I understand why you did it because otherwise c4 is annoying.
Yeah, I figured like he has the bishop pair. We're already kind of like trading off all our pieces anyway. So might as well just get rid of one of the bishops. But it helps him get rid of his good
This is the
bishop.
bad
So I
bishop.
don't know.
This is the bad bishop.
Or
Get
I
rid
mean,
of your
bad
good
bishop. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was the problem that you had in your other game where you were black in a similar situation. You can never get this bishop out. And then here you sort of solved that problem for black for them.
I see.
Yeah.
I was also worried about maybe like if I didn't do that, like queen a5 ideas. Was that an issue at any point? Like if I just played like c3 in this position.
Maybe queen b6. Because
Oh yeah, that was what I think.
Yeah,
Queen b6.
probably this. There were a few moments where black could have tried this, and there's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's still equal there.
Me too. Yeah, it feels like black is doing pretty well.
So do you have to? Do I take then on c5?
I don't really know, but apparently you can play queen b3. If c4 take, I'm not a big fan of these positions for white though.
Yeah, I don't like this either.
Then you're getting
I really try and avoid that ideas when I'm playing
yeah
the London.
yeah, and it's an advantage for
I played
black.
that line as
Mm.
you like double the B pawns and then you just like push one of them down. It's like the easiest plan in the world.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's see. So c5 here, trade it. It still wants to take on c5, by the way. This
Oh,
whole
really?
time. This whole time, basically. Yeah, because and even what happened in the game still wants you to take on c5. Just because now black's about to open up the file and they're going to control the file, and then there was all this is like hard for you to sort of untangle from that, or even battle for the c file at all. So
Yeah, I think I kind of played a little too quickly here. I think I underestimated the fact that they would just control the file
mhm,
when I played Rook C1.
yeah, and then this is
Yeah.
where it was. This is where it really got better for black by a significant amount. So we were getting a little nervous because it. Well, you were moving quick. We noticed, and
Yeah, I didn't. I felt like really unfocused at the beginning. I think because I just got out of the other game like an hour before.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know, but I guess I just got lucky again.
Um. Well, it's not
So was
so
this
easy
the
for
moment
black.
for
Yeah.
Queen A4?
Queen a4, yeah. Just attack the pawn,
Yeah.
sorry. And this pawn. And then it's hard for you to do anything.
Yeah,
Because
I
if
was gonna play like Knight B3 maybe.
yeah, and then you're just really stuck. That's the
Yeah, then I
problem.
just can't do anything.
It's not really super obvious what black should do, but like you can't move anything. You can never go rook c1 because they just take.
Yeah.
And a2 you have to stay guarding it, but you can't push it because you lose the knight, and like nothing can move, you know.
I know. Yeah, I saw this position. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is very good. So when he didn't play it, I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I
when
might
you
still
went
have.
queen c6, I was like, okay, we might be all right here.
Yeah, I still thought for a long time here because
Yeah.
there were so many weird variations where like that rook gets into the seventh and then I like couldn't do anything. But I think I did I play it the right way?
At this point, you handled it pretty well, but there was one. Yeah, you traded queens. This was good. Bishop b4 was a really strange move. I don't know what this even does. This
I
is
thought I
where
was
black gave up.
winning.
Oh, really?
Sorry, at this point, because well, I realized it didn't work, but I thought I had the tactic of like taking the queen and then rook c1, and then if he takes the b pawn, then I had check, and then I thought I could like bring my knight up and like win the bishop, but it doesn't work because he has rook c2.
Yeah, we were hoping you were going to go for this because after rook c2, you just move out of the way, and you're still going to play knight d7.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh wait, it did work. I
it
did
did
Yeah.
get
work.
okay.
It did
And
work.
it's
Yeah.
funny, we talked about that very thing because I said the same thing. I'm like, it's very easy to run a variation all the way up to a certain point and then go, that doesn't work. Let me abandon that. And Kamryn, you and I at the exact same point, at the point where you knew that that rook could come in, and I'm like, oh well, that doesn't work because you can just play rook c2. Let me
Yeah,
move away from that. And Ian's like, well, you can move away. And I did the exact same thing. I was like, oh, it never occurred to me that I could actually just slide over one.
yeah, because the bishop can't take, and then the I mean the rook's not going to take, and the pawn like you just move the knight. Then yeah,
Yeah.
I need to pick up that one more move.
One more move, and you would have seen it. So that's what I
Yeah.
suspected, is that maybe you saw all the way to rook c2 and then sort of abandoned it, which is easy to do.
Yeah, it seems so right for tactics there though.
It
Uh,
does. Yeah, it really
so
does.
that's disappointing.
And it was actually kind of important to play rook c1 because after rook f2, if he had gone back to c4, he still got pressure on you, and his rook is still better than yours. So it's a slight edge for black, but
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't play that.
it's better than when the queens were on the board. But yeah, I was surprised that he went all the way back to c8. Also, I'm not sure what that was about.
And then in this position, I was just gonna like kick the bishop back. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
still probably slightly worse, but
Yeah, kick the bishop and start to activate your king, maybe something like that. I don't know.
yeah.
But it seems like you've made a lot of progress and should be okay here. Even if you just play rook d2 and then start to bring the king.
Yeah, that's probably what I would have done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he went rook c8. There was that rook c1 tactic. We were calling for it. We were hoping. Yeah. Okay. So rook f1, and then you played it anyway, which was clever. Yeah. And this endgame, at first, I kind of felt like there was only you could win this potentially, but there all these tricks kind of started popping up. I don't know if you realized like there was a lot of danger in the position. Maybe not here, but a little bit later.
Yeah, I realized I had to like keep this wall of pawns so that his bishop could just like never break through. And so like even ideas for like breaking through like assisted by my knight that like wouldn't really work because then his bishop gets in behind my pawns and they're all in dark squares and it's like annoying to defend everything. But I'm sure there's a lot of tactics I missed. Okay, was B4 did B4 work or should have I played A4 or
So
something else?
so b4 was okay, I think. Yeah, b4 was okay. Um, but I thought it was a little bit risky. I was thinking just leave the two pawns here and do nothing. What can black do? Like
Mm.
if you just plant the king on d3, I think maybe that's the safest square for it. Say you move the knight, and maybe black keeps coming. I don't know what the threat is. I don't think there is a threat. If they ever land on b3, you just take it, and it's pretty blockaded. If they ever land on a3, you just go here. There's no way through.
Okay.
So
So
you
you
let
just
them
block
waste
up.
time. Maybe you try to come on this side of the board at the same time. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's even. The whole endgame was even all the way through. But there were some tricks. So b4 worked, but I think the main drawback was that it actually gave black some ways to try to sneak their king in some variations.
Okay, yeah. I didn't really like when you move the king up, I didn't think that was a very good move because he's like defending that pawn with a king instead of the other pawn, but I guess it makes sense because he's just trying to sneak in.
Well, it's hard to get your knight to c3, I think, is the issue.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you just play king d3, you lose in this position. I don't know if you saw that. Like this
Um
is a good example of the types of traps. What did he play? He went king. Oh, he went pawn here. Oh, you know what? There was one other thing earlier in the game. Can we just back up quickly because I'll come back to this? Because
yeah.
there was, I don't know if you saw this idea, but where was it? It was like in this position. If he went king e7, I think that he actually loses his bishop.
Oh yeah, I did see this. Wait, does A3 also work to trap the bishop?
Um, no, apparently not. No, because
Oh,
maybe
because
the bishop
he
can go
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Maybe
I
somehow
did see that whole idea, which is why I was bringing my king to prevent that.
the bishop goes here. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. Don't I have to go like knight E2 to defend both the pawns?
Apparently, black now is better. I guess something like this.
Oh,
Yeah, how do you get
yeah,
your
I guess
king in?
it's-
Your king is
yeah,
trapped
my
out.
king just well,
Yeah.
that's good to know. I hope I would have seen that.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry. Back to this. Yeah, I was going to say that if you played, if what did he do? Okay, I mean, let's say he just did this. If you ever tried to go here with the idea of knight here and here, bishop takes b4 is winning all of a sudden.
Oh, I was looking at something like that. I didn't really calculate it all the way through, but I figured it was probably better to just keep my king close so there wasn't anything like that.
Even like king takes b4 is dangerous for you as well. So there are all these tricks over here that were like, okay, let's not move that king too far away, you know,
Glue the king to that square.
basically. I thought it was very risky for him to try something over here because honestly, I thought maybe your knight could sneak over and start taking stuff. But apparently, it was all just even the whole way through.
That's so interesting. Yeah,
There's
if he
some.
ever took that pawn, I'm gonna take with the knight, and then uh yeah, I felt like I was pretty happy to like make the trade of minor pieces if he ever wanted to. maybe that was
Knight for
more
bishop, you mean?
optimistic, but yeah, like
Hmm.
I don't know exactly when that would have happened, but
Well, if it happens, it's probably just a draw. Like if your king goes here, they go back, they come here, you have to go back, and nobody can do anything.
yeah, it's just shuffling. So
But I mean, that would have been a fair result. Yeah, knight f2. The only idea I had for you really was to get the knight to c3. You have to get the king here, but you sort of have to maneuver the knight around like this first, get to there. But it kind of take too long, and even at the end of that, everything just gets blocked, and maybe there's nothing after all.
yeah, the other thing I was considering is trying to get the knight to e3, and then trying to push f5. But I discarded that because I figured that allows his bishop to come in, and I'd rather just like keep that wall of pawns so his bishop is like worse.
Yeah. Here you should have played h4, I believe. Play h3. h3 was slightly risky because there's h4.
Oh,
Like you have
yeah.
you have only one move here to avoid losing.
Yeah. It's got to be. Oh my gosh, it is too much chess for me.
I know. Well, you had to play knight g4.
Okay, it is knight takes, yeah.
It is knight takes, yeah. Because after this, you
And
can
then
stop the pawn.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But Omar and I were looking at lines like, okay, now this pawn is unstoppable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stoppable temporarily, but then the bishop comes in. Actually, the
Yeah.
bishop needs to come in first. That's actually an important detail because if they go here, you push g5 and keep the bishop out. But it's still a draw. So it's like you can never come over to win the pawn because then their king gets in, and it's just.
Yeah.
But if they go bishop here first, now this and bishop f2 is winning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because my king can't ever come to help because then their king. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
that's.
it was risky. And this is a similar story, but it's even worse because you can't even go knight h3 now.
Yeah.
So
oh my goodness.
yeah, h4 would have been much safer to do the same thing basically.
Yeah, it either forces en passant or just blocks everything up, and then we just shuffle and
Yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
so I was thinking during the game, I can't really find any tricks for Kamryn that work for her. I can only find tricks for black. So
Yeah,
it's a good thing she got the draw. Like we'll be happy with the draw.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. So well
I'm
done.
just glad that lasted like a shorter amount of time than all the other ones.
Yeah, it's good to have a break.
The stream is at as far as hours, but yeah,
No,
felt faster than all the early ones.
Yeah. So let's see. Is there anything interesting here? I think this was a good spot to take the draw. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where he offered it, and like I said, I was considering like I don't know, trying to get back and like breaking through and maybe making a passer, but I didn't think it really worked. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, fair enough. These like minor piece endings when I have the knight and they have the bishop are like always so scary because usually the bishop is better if I'm not mistaken, just like in general as a general principle. So I was like pretty nervous about the bishop getting in.
Well, you had it pretty well blocked, to be honest. The thing you have to worry about are random sacrifices where a pawn gets free. You know.
Yeah.
I was at one point looking at a variation. I think it's over here, where like you get some sort of blockade like this, and you try to get this like this gets blockaded as well, and then play f5. It's the only pawn break left. And even this gets dangerous for you, apparently. Like, I thought for sure this is dangerous for black because you can imagine a knight landing here and taking this pawn.
Yeah.
This is the one way I thought, like, if I was playing this game, I might try to win this way. Turns out it's not so easy. After this, you're worse because they can play f6.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a whole big mess, and then this pawn pushes, and the king gets in, and this is dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
crazy.
what an end game.
It's one of
I'm
those
glad there.
things
I hope it
where,
wasn't too boring. I'm glad it was at least a little instructive.
oh no, we looked at a ton of stuff, didn't we, Omar?
Yes, we did.
Good.
I mean, my brain is fried for the day. So,
I can imagine.
yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Pretty good way to end the day.
Yeah,
You're F 2.5 out of 5 against all higher rated opponents.
It's not
yeah.
bad.
Feel
I'm
good.
Thank
pretty
you.
happy.
Yeah.
I obviously previous round would have been nice to draw that one too, but you know, we take what we can get. So tomorrow will be better.
No doubt.
All right.
But
Final.
yeah,
Yep.
thank you guys for commentating again as per usual, especially Ian who's been on it's very late nights
Yeah,
this week.
exactly. Yeah, no doubt.
It's our pleasure. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. And join us again tomorrow. We got 2 more games. So we're going to let Kamryn go. We're going to go get some rest and be ready for that tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Bye,
right, see you
everybody.
guys.
Thank you.